Hello, good evening, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to a session of economic current affairs for the aspirants who are writing the mains examination. In this session, I'll be covering all the important major topics which you should understand and prepare for, right? Let's say the upcoming mains examination. Before I start the discussion, please do let me know in the chat section. Am I audible and visible for everyone? Please do let me know. Am I audible and visible for everyone? Those who are present, do let me know. Am I audible and visible? Done. Let's start then. Let's start. So, if you're somebody who is preparing for the next year civil services examination or 2027, our courses are available at a price of 29,999. You'll get access to the live as well as recorded lectures of English, Hindi, and bilingual medium. You'll get access to prelims as well as mains test series and the reading material as well. If you're interested, do check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description below. Let me start with the first topic. And again, please understand this is focused for the mains examination, right? So the basics, I'm presuming you've already understood the basics. So first topic that I'll be picking up is India becoming the fourth largest economy. And before I start, all of those who are present in the session, listen to me very carefully. When I'm discussing this, this is for your benefit. Please do not start making the notes on all these topics. Please do not waste your time. Do not make notes. Let the session be complete. After the session is over, please visit my Telegram channel. The PPT as well as the handout will be available in the Telegram channel. All you need to do is basically download and use it for revision. Let's start. India becoming the fourth largest economy. What is the debate surrounding this particular topic? The government of India, including the representative of the Niti Aayog, stated that India has overtaken the country Japan and has become the fourth largest economy. In this context, you need to remember this particular data, that is basically the GDP of India. According to the latest estimates, GDP of India is a $4.18 trillion dollar. Remember this particular data. And right, Japan's GDP is a 4.186, India's is a 4.187, which essentially means India has overtaken Japan, at least according to the government statements. It has overtaken Japan to become the fourth largest economy. Government of India has stated we want to make India as a $5 trillion economy. Going forward, we want to make it $30 trillion economy, etc. etc. But what is the important point here? All of you, please listen to me carefully. Is the GDP, when you look at the GDP as a concept, is the GDP the path or the destination? Is the GDP path or the destination? That is, do you want to simply achieve GDP? Is that your end target? Or basically, you want to use GDP, achieve a higher GDP, and also achieve something else along with the concept of a GDP. For example, those who are writing the mains examination, please do let me know. Have you heard of the term inclusive growth? What is the idea of inclusive growth? You are supposed to achieve the growth as well as a development. You're supposed to ensure the benefits of the growth reach to all the sections of the society. So please remember, India becoming the fourth largest economy. Is it an achievement? Definitely yes, it is an achievement. But only GDP should not be taken as a representation of how the Indian society is performing, how much benefit is accruing to the Indian society. Argument here is GDP, yes, it will focus only on the growth aspect. It focuses only on the growth aspect. What about the development aspect of India? You will have to have very good amount of data to write. These are the areas where we require to promote development. For example, infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, doubling the income of the farmers, controlling pollution. India is one of the largest polluters in the global market, right? Controlling the pollution, ensuring, right, let's say the poorest sections of the society are getting benefit, are able to move out of the poverty, etc., etc. So this is one aspect, please remember this. And second aspect, GDP is an indicator. No doubt, GDP is an indicator. But GDP also doesn't provide lot of other information that is needed for you. For example, when you talk about GDP, what is GDP? The market prices of all the final goods and services. Does the GDP provide to you the information regarding how much is the consumption of resources that we have done in order to achieve this GDP number? Have a look at this and do let me know. Does it provide you the information regarding the consumption of resources? And the resources are important. Reason being, listen to me carefully. If you want to have a sustainable growth, you want to ensure that even the future generations will be able to achieve a higher GDP number, you should ensure the resources are available for them as well. You're not excessively consuming the resources today itself. So the consumption of the resources, that information is not provided in the GDP. Second one, higher GDP doesn't always mean that income inequality and wealth inequality is coming down. Remember this. What about income and wealth inequality? The income and wealth inequality could continue to exist in Indian economy. You'll have to ensure that these income and wealth inequality reduces, right, will come down, which will provide benefit to all the sections of the society and ensure the GDP is providing benefit to everybody, not just a fewer people in the society. In that context, I'm pretty sure you must have come across the reports which are published. The reports mention that India has one of the highest, right, let's say GDPs, but at the same point of time, income inequality in India has widened. Wealth inequality in India has widened. Gender inequality has widened. That is very, very high in the context of India. Is it okay? Right? So, income and wealth inequality, that information is not provided by the GDP number. What about, let's say, the poverty numbers in India? What about the poverty? Does GDP, that is GDP becoming 4 trillion, 4.5 trillion, or even 5 trillion, does it provide any information regarding the poverty numbers in India? That is also not provided in the GDP number. It will simply tell you that the market price is this much. But how many people are poor in India? How many people are extremely poor in India? That information is not at all provided by the GDP number. Next, what about regional disparities? What about regional disparities? Does a higher GDP provide you any information regarding the regional disparities that are existing in India? You must have seen certain states accounting for very high contribution to gross domestic product. At the same point of time, there are also many other states which have not been able to produce more goods and services, which have not been able to generate sufficient number of jobs, where the migration is very high into other states, where the poverty numbers are very, very high, etc. So these kind of regional disparities doesn't, right, account, or these kind of issues are not accounted when the GDP is calculated. And one more very important issue, in recent times, in the context of India, there is one term which is being mentioned: jobless growth. Jobless growth, is it not an issue? Having a jobless growth phenomenon, is it not an issue for Indian economy? And what is a jobless growth phenomenon? Jobless growth phenomenon essentially mentions or talks about an economy which achieves a higher GDP growth rate, but the employment growth rate is very, very slow. Employment growth rate is very, very slow. Right? So GDP growth rate is very fast. Employment growth rate is very, very slow. So in that particular situation, yes, you might have achieved a higher GDP number, but right, with that, if there is a jobless growth, or for that matter, right, underemployment, if there is underemployment in the economy, or there is a lot of, right, let's say jobs created, but these are gig jobs, these are essentially gig jobs. In that particular situation, I hope you understand this GDP number. Yes, it's a good achievement, but even then, there are certain concerns which the government of India, along with the cooperation of the states, will have to address. Everybody is okay? Right? Please do let me know in the chat section. Everybody is able to understand the debate that is happening currently. So we have achieved a higher GDP number, right? Ours is the fourth largest economy in the world. Good achievement. It represents the size of the Indian economy is increasing. it is associated with right investment, it is associated with exports, it is associated with right the standing of India in the global market. But at the same point of time, if UPSC will ask you, is it inclusive growth, is it right, let's say, the final destination that you want to choose, or it is just a path that you want to choose, you'll have to mention all the other aspects as well. Everybody is okay, only PU has mentioned yes sir. What about others? Those are present in the session, please do let me know. Can I move on to the next topic? The next topic that I want to discuss, why you discussed jobless growth under GDP. My dear, the reason behind this is, yes, we have achieved a higher GDP number. No doubt, we have achieved a higher GDP number. But at the same point of time, if we are not able to generate sufficient number of jobs, if we are not able to create sufficient number of jobs, that is basically a jobless growth phenomenon. And in the context of India, for the last 2 decades, there has been a discussion that we are facing the issue of jobless growth phenomenon. And that's the reason I said higher GDP, but at the same point of time, we are not able to create sufficient number of quality jobs. Okay, let's go to the next topic now. What if UPSC will ask you a question like this? Just think of this. In the recent times, there is a rise of protectionism, which is not conducive for the global trade. Elaborate the statement. I'll repeat the question. I'll repeat the question. In the recent times, there is a rising wave of protectionist policies around the world, which is not conducive for the global trade. Discuss what is the impact of these kind of policies on the Indian economy. 250 words. Right, in 15 marker question. So what are you supposed to write in these kind of questions? What kind of protectionist policies are being implemented around the world? Let's try and understand this. First and foremost, what is the basic idea of a protectionist policy? How do you define a protectionist policy? These are either a tariff or a non-tariff barrier which is implemented by the importing countries in order to achieve a certain interest in the domestic market. You want to achieve certain objective in the domestic market. For that, you will impose a restriction. And these restrictions which are imposed only with the sole objective of a domestic market is referred to as a protectionist policy. In the last 1.5 year, what kind of protectionist policies have been implemented around the world? I've listed some of them. Please have a look at this. First one, tariff policy. For example, Mr. Donald Trump has kept on announcing tariff, and I hope you understand. Against the tariff policy, there has been right a counter tariff policy, that is a retaliatory tariff policy followed by multiple countries. For example, USA and China. USA announced a tariff, China retaliated. Against this, again USA retaliated. Following that, China retaliated. Now, if you look at it, what is the impact of this? Basically, we refer to this as a trade war. What is the impact of all of this? Right? It will basically lead to trade war. What is the impact of the trade war? Listen to me carefully. Whenever there's a trade war, it will disrupt the whole global trade. It will basically disrupt the global trade. That is, what is the total trade of goods and services which will happen in the global market? It will disrupt the global trade. That is one important outcome. Second one is, right, don't you think it will have an impact on job growth prospects? Yes or no? Jobs growth. Let me give you a very simple example. According to the latest data of jobs generated in USA for the month of July, around 70,000 jobs have been created. For the month of July, I hope you understand this. In USA, they publish monthly data. In India, all of you please tell me, those who are writing exams this year, please tell me. In India, what is the frequency of the jobs data publication? Let me see how many of you have read current affairs. What is the frequency of jobs data publication in India? Do we publish it monthly? Do we publish it quarterly? Do we publish it annually? Or do we publish it once a 5 year? What is the frequency of data regarding the jobs in India or employment unemployment rate in India that is published? Nobody wants to answer? All of you are like, right, sir, you only tell the answer. I'm simply here to sit and listen. I'm not here to give any kind of answer. Monthly. One person says monthly. What about others? Okay, great. Nobody wants to answer. Others? Okay, Astitva Shukla says no time period. My dear, please, right, those who are writing the exams, focus on this. PLFS is published monthly now. PLFS is published monthly, right? It is published monthly. Until very recently, the PLFS was published quarterly. Now this is published monthly. High frequency data. Very important. Please remember that. So come back to the discussion. Trade war. It has led to the trade disruption. It has basically affected the job generation or the jobs prospects. It has affected even the earnings of the countries. Because I hope you understand the country's GDP is dependent on the goods and services produced. Some of them produce and export it. And if exports are affected because of the tariff, obviously the earnings of the companies would be affected, GDP of the country would be affected. And there is also spillover effect. There is also a spillover effect. What do you mean by spillover effect? I am somebody who is supplying raw material to a company in China. If China and USA are involved in a tariff war, China's exports of this product will be affected. My export to China would be affected. So other countries which are there in the supply chain, their exports would also be affected, which is not a good sign, which is not a good indicator for even these other countries as well. Right? So there are various issues associated with the trade war, which has happened because of the tariff policy announced by Mr. Donald Trump. Second one is quotas. What is the meaning of a quota? Very recently, the quota term was used even in the context of CETA. All of you have come across this particular agreement, CETA. That is between India and Britain. There is an agreement, comprehensive economic trade agreement, CETA. Under this agreement, we have implemented tariff rate quotas. Quotas have been implemented across the world by multiple countries, which will have a restriction over quantity imports, over quantity of imports. For example, India has implemented multiple quotas. USA, right? Other countries have implemented multiple quotas as well. So quota restriction also has a disrupted. It has been used by the countries around the world basically to restrict the trade, use it for a protectionist policy. Exchange rate, right? Exchange rate movements. Very often there is an allegation that China manipulates currencies. Very often there is an allegation that USA's federal policy will have an impact on exchange rate in India. We come across the term called as beggar thy neighbor policy. That is, the Federal Reserve will either expand the monetary policy or contract the monetary policy. As a result of that, it will have an impact on exchange rate of India. Right? That is basically manipulation, right, through the exchange rate, or basically having an impact in the global trade through, right, the manipulation of interest. And so the third type of policy is a restriction over the exchange rate or impact over the exchange rate. Investment promotion or restriction. Many countries around the world have implemented restrictions over foreign investments which are coming into their country. I'll give a very simple example, and this was there very recently in the newspaper as well. If any neighboring country wants to invest in India, neighboring country which shares a border with India, if they want to invest in India, basically they will have to go through approval route only. They will have to go through approval route. There is no automatic route for them. There is an right only route, that is the approval route. Niti Ayog very recently has stated, because of this kind of a policy of government of India, the investments that are supposed to come into India from China has been affected. Right? And as such, we are worried that the amount of FDI that we are receiving is already not sufficient. Our target is $100 billion FDI annually. We are receiving around $80 billion annually. So one of the reasons why we are not able to receive lot of these investments is because of the policies of government. Of course, before you jump to conclusions, or why does government do this? The reason that the government of India simply provides is we are more worried about national security. We are worried about the safety of financial data. We do not want the Chinese companies to simply come in India and take over the management of the companies, etc. So, for these particular reasons, the government of India in 2020 has implemented a FDI policy wherein any investment that will come from the other trading other member countries which will share the border with India, it has to go through only the approval route, no automatic route. And finally, promotion through subsidies. Multiple countries have been promoting investment in their domestic market through a subsidy policy. What is the idea of a subsidy? For example, USA implemented an act called as Inflation Reduction Act. When Mr. Joe Biden was the president, they introduced a policy called as Inflation Reduction Act. They have a policy called as a CHIPS Act, under which they want to basically attract more and more investment in the domestic market by attracting investments. And how do they want to attract investment? By providing subsidies. They will offer you subsidies. In order to get this particular subsidy, you will be more inclined to invest in the American market. Right? So these are the kind of protectionist policies which are being used by various countries around the world, which will have an impact on the global market. Now, what is the impact of these kind of policies on India? What is the impact on India? One, obviously, we want to promote lot of these industries. We also have implemented lot of policies. But if developed countries start offering lot of incentives, these investments will get diverted. Lot of them might end up going to developed countries. That is one. Second one, if the Federal Reserve will keep on altering its, right, let's say interest rates, of course they want to protect their economy. For that, if they keep on altering interest rates, there will be a huge outflow of the foreign investments from India. And when the, right, let's say the FII will flow out of India, that will have a higher impact on the volatility of the stock market, volatility in the financial market, volatility in the forex market will be high. Indian rupee will start depreciating. Reserve Bank of India has to come into picture, start using the forex reserves to stabilize the currency. It has to use the, right, let's say foreign currencies or forex reserves to stabilize the currency. Right, so investment in India are getting affected. Right, there is volatility in the financial market as well as the forex market. Right, so these are some of the issues. Third one, India's exports would be affected. We want to export more to USA. It is one of the biggest trading partner for us. But if USA will impose very high tariffs for Indian exports, India's exports would be affected, and which will have a right higher impact on many of the industries which are operating, which are producing goods and services which want to export to USA. Is it okay? Everybody is able to understand? So these are the different types of protectionist policies which are present or which are being used by many of the countries in recent times, which is going to have an impact, direct or indirect, on the Indian economy. Can we go forward? Can we go forward now? Repeat exchange rate. Exchange rate policy is, if let's say USA Federal Reserve will alter its interest rate. If the USA Federal Reserve will alter its interest rate, that will have an impact on basically how much foreign investment is there in India. Again, I'm talking about financial investments. If the interest rates in USA will go upwards, a lot of foreign investments will start moving out of India, go to the USA market. That will basically affect Indian rupee by depreciating Indian rupee. And because India is a net importer, because India is a net importer, that will basically increase the cost of imports, which will again have an impact on production, which will have an impact on inflation in the domestic market, etc. etc. Everybody is okay? Okay. How if China imposes tariff on USA and USA imposes on China, this will be going to impact other countries. Let's say here is one country, Korea, Japan for that matter, right? Let's say A will supply raw material, an input which will be used by a company in China, which will manufacture a product, export to USA. Now, if USA will impose a very high tariff on this particular product, export of the product to USA would be affected. Straightforward. And if export of this product to USA would be affected, requirement of raw material would be affected. So don't you think as a result of this, the third country, such as South Korea, such as Japan, such as, right, let's say Vietnam, which is supplying the input to China, would be affected by this kind of a tariff war which is happening between USA and China. And everybody is okay? Let's go forward. Let's go forward. Prasant Elumalai. My dear, what is the doubt? You pasted some numbers and then deleted. What is the doubt? Do let me know. Sir, if investor goes, how our stock market will be affected, my dear? A foreign investor will sell the shares in India. Don't you think there'll be volatility in Indian stock market? Very simple logic. Let's go forward. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, IBC. Why have I taken this particular topic? One, because of the Supreme Court judgment. Supreme Court judgment. All of you heard of or read about the Supreme Court judgment? I'm not going to discuss the judgment, but let's do the critical evaluation. And the critical evaluation. And second one is IBC has been there in the news for the last 8 years since its introduction. So far, UPSC has not asked a single question. Right? So far, UPSC has not asked a single question on IBC. That is a precise reason. Prasant, my dear, don't worry. You don't have to be sorry. Right? It will happen by mistake. Don't worry. Ignore it. And whenever I ask a question citing a particular person, don't panic. Don't start panicking. Let's start. What is a critical evaluation of insolvency and bankruptcy code? Again, I'm saying critical evaluation. Why? Mains. We are focused on mains perspective. That is the reason. Now, insolvency and bankruptcy code has come into force from 2016. It has come into force from 2016. And what has been the impact? Let's do the analysis in terms of positive impact of IBC as well as the issues or concerns associated with the IBC. Issues or concerns associated with insolvency and bankruptcy code. First one, IBC has basically led to a single framework. I'm using the term single. They will also use the term unified framework. Either use the term single or unified framework. What is the meaning of a single or unified framework? Earlier, whenever a company borrowed and was not able to repay, there was not a single law, that is, there was no one single law with all the provisions. There were certain provisions under BIFR, Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction, which came under SICA. There were there were certain provisions under Companies Act of 2013. There were certain provisions under let's say the different laws. There are different laws, NCLT, NCLAT, different, etc. So earlier the point is very simple: different provisions in different laws, and that would make the whole system very complicated. It will be very complicated. The system will be very complex. What Government of India did was, rather than having different provisions in different laws, they took all the provisions and put it only under one piece of legislation. And that legislation is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So first point, it is providing a unified framework. Is it clear? Second one, earlier whenever a company borrowed, took a loan, was not able to repay, the time that was taken to basically get the money back, it was very, very high. For the creditor, how much time it took the writer took for them to basically get the money back? I'm simply using the term resolution. To get the resolution, the time taken was very, very high. How much? In certain cases, they say it took around 4 years on average. The time taken for resolution was very, very high. Everybody is okay with the let's say positive aspect here. The time taken for resolution was very high. Now under IBC, what is happening? Under IBC, the Government of India simply says the insolvency resolution under IBC has to happen within 330 days. The resolution under IBC has to happen within 330 days. Resolution here basically means, if there is a company which has taken the loan from a bank, should we close the company or should we sell the company to somebody else? Should we sell it to somebody else, or should we close the company and get the money back? right? One is closing the company. We call it as a liquidation. Resolution basically means you find a new buyer, sell it to a new buyer. Right? So earlier the time taken was very, very high. Now, under the law, the time taken has been decided at 330 days. Please remember this, 330 days. Point number three, right? Under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, please remember this. Either the creditor or the debtor, either the creditor or the debtor can approach NCLT and file an application. What is the meaning of either creditor or, right? Let's say the debtor. Meaning is very simple here. Either the lender who has given the loan can go to NCLT, file an application against the borrower, or the borrower, right, the owner of the company, they can approach the NCLT and simply say, I'm not able to repay. Please conduct the process of either selling the company to somebody or close the company. Right, so both of them, right, both of them have been given the power to approach NCLT and file an application. That is one of the very important point. Reason being, earlier the situation was not that easy. If there is a company which has given loan like this, or it has taken a loan and the borrower is not, right, able to recollect it, the borrower was basically asked to go to court, file an application, and the cases would keep on going on for multiple years. Right, and now this is much easier compared to earlier situation. And the fourth one, the behavior of the borrowers has changed. The behavior of borrowers has changed now. What do you mean by behavior of borrower has changed? If I'm a company, let's say I will take a loan from you, right? Who is there in the class now? Gaurav is there, right? Let's say Gaurav is talking to somebody else there, but anyways, Gaurav, I will take a loan from you, right? Imagine you're a bank, I'm a company. Now, if I do not repay it, I hope you understand. If I do not repay it, basically you will go to NCLT, file an application. I will end up losing ownership of my company. The company will be sold to somebody else in the market, or the company will be closed down and the money will be returned to Gaurav. So basically, what is happening? I'm worried now. If I've taken a loan, if I owe money to Gaurav, I'll be worried and I will basically keep on ensuring that the money is repaid on timely basis. And so behavior of the borrowers has changed. And that is a very, very important outcome of insolvency and bankruptcy code. Everybody is okay with the positive outcomes. What about the issues or concerns? Gaurav, don't worry, right? Don't worry, right? All of you who are present in the session, don't keep on saying sorry. I'm not bothered about it. You also don't be bothered. If I take your name, don't panic. Let's start. What are the issues or concerns? Point number one, there is a lack of infrastructure. There is a lack of infrastructure. What do you mean by lack of infrastructure? You are a, right, let's say a bank which has given the loan. The borrower is not repaying the loan. You need to file a complaint. You need to file an application. You go to authorities, that is NCLT. The number of, right, let's say judges are lesser. Right, the number of, right, let's say the people, officials who are present to accept your application, right, take your documents, submit it to the bench, etc., that is very less. The benches are very less, whereas the application being filed are very, very high. So automatically it is basically that applications are very high, the acceptance rate is very low, the benches are very low. Automatically what will happen? It will lead to lot of backlog. It will lead to a lot of backlog of these particular cases. So according to the document, according to the law, you are supposed to finish off the process in 330 days. Because there is a lack of infrastructure, don't you think the actual time taken, all of you okay? The actual time taken is much, much higher. You're supposed to finish in 330 days. But because there is a lot of process that is involved, you do not have sufficient benches, you do not have sufficient supporting infrastructure, the actual time taken will be much, much higher than 330 days. And that will basically lead to a lot of NPAs existing, non performing assets existing in the market. And everybody is okay. Third concern. Third concern. The whole idea of insolvency and bankruptcy code was to ensure the companies will be sold to somebody. The companies will be sold to some new buyer in the market, so that the company doesn't have to be closed. A new buyer will come, they will start the production process, employment will be intact, the machineries will be intact, supply of the product will happen, etc. But here what is happening in reality, rather than resolution, that is rather than selling to a new buyer, a lot of these companies are going through liquidation. A lot of these companies are going through liquidation. What is the meaning of liquidation? Closure. Then everybody is okay, right? It is basically closure. Closure of the companies is very, very high. And that is also hurting the process of insolvency and bankruptcy. And finally, right, finally, the recovery rates. The recovery rates. The recovery rates are around 30% under IBC. The recovery rates are around 30% under IBC. What do you mean by recovery rate? Imagine a bank has given a loan of 100 CR. They want to recollect 100 CR. But under this process, they're able to recollect only 30 CR. So recovery rates are lesser under this 30%. It should be higher. It should be much bigger. And that will basically improve the confidence of the creditors on the system of insolvency and bankruptcy code. Done. So this is the critical evaluation. I've given you the points under the positive outcomes of IBC. 8 years are over now. I've also given you the points under the concerns or the issues that are plaguing the insolvency and bankruptcy code. If the question is asked for 250 words, expand the statements accordingly. Write the statements accordingly. And if the question is asked for 150 words, right, also contract the statements accordingly. Everybody is okay. Can I move on to the next topic now? Those are present, please do let me know. Can I move on to the next topic now? Ayush Ojha is saying, sir, inequality is going down in India. Yes, my dear. Yes, inequality is going down. But the point I made was, is there still inequality in India? All of you are able to understand? I'm not denying the fact that there is a report which says inequality is less. Of course, yes, agreed. But at the same point of time, I'm still saying, yes, income inequality is existing in India. I'm saying, yes, right, gender income inequality is still there in India. Wealth inequality is still higher in it. We must further reduce it. The point you should make is a further reduction should take place. Okay, done. So let's go forward now. What is recovery? Recovery means out of the debt. Debt means how much you are supposed to recollect. Out of the total debt, how much money are you able to recover? If you're at, let's say, if you're a bank, I've taken a loan. You're supposed to collect 100 crore rupees from me. That is a debt. Out of 100 crore rupees, if you're able to recover only 30 crore, I'll say recovery is 30%. Right, sir? What if there is 200 crore rupees? Instead of 100 crore, what if the debt is 200 crore? Out of 200 crore, if you are able to recover, let's say 2 CR or let's say 20 CR, then your recovery will be 10%. Then your recovery will be 10%. For example, in the newspapers, you will come across a term called as haircut. They will say haircut is very high. I'll simply use the term haircut is very high. What do you mean by haircut? Out of the total debt, how much money you are not able to recover? Out of the total debt that you're supposed to recollect, how much you are not able to recover, that is called as haircut. Right? Haircuts are higher, recovery rates are around 30%. But having said so, before I go forward, please remember next point as well. Compared to earlier systems, this recovery is high. Before this, we had ARCs. Before this, we had multiple systems. So DRT, ARC, etc. Compared to those systems, 30% is very high. But if you talk about IBC alone, 30% is on a lower side. It should be higher. They want to basically promote IBC model, right? So obviously more the recovery, more the confidence. More the confidence, more cases will be brought to the IBC. More resolution of non-performing asset. Okay, let me go forward. Next, I want to cover, next topic is the idea of a DTAA and MFN. DTAA and MFN, right? What is the context? Why the two terms were there in the newspaper? DTAA stands for Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement. And most favored nation basically is, right, let's say one of the principles of World Trade Organization. In recent times, these two have been clubbed in the context of Switzerland. Please have a look at this. In the context of Switzerland, Switzerland announced that it will be withdrawing. I repeat, Switzerland announced that it will be withdrawing the MFN status that it has provided to India. Right? It announced that it will be withdrawing the MFN status that has been given to India. What is the basic idea? DTAA, right, basically stands for, like I said earlier, Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement. The importance of DTA is, please remember this. The DTA provides clarity regarding taxation. Please remember, this can be asked a straightforward 150 words question. 150 worded question. Right? They'll simply say, define a double taxation avoidance agreement and the importance of double taxation avoidance agreement. Straightforward 150 words. This can be one question. So what is right, the importance of double taxation avoidance agreement? It will provide clarity. Clarity regarding what? Let's say there are two countries A and B. Let's say there are two countries A and B. Now, if investments will flow from country A to country B, let's say investments will flow from country A to country B. And on these investments, the income is generated the second country. Income is generated in the second country. On this income, who has the right to impose a tax? Is it country A or country B? If both of the countries impose a tax on the same income, same revenue, that is double taxation. And if there's a double taxation, don't you think that will affect investments here? If you are the investor, why would you flow or why would you take your investments from A and B and pay taxes at two places? Right? So governments around the world generally enter into these kind of agreements called as a DTAAs. So DTAA will provide one, clarity regarding taxation. And second, the disputes regarding taxation will also be addressed because of the DTAA provision. And the third one, those countries will enter into DTAA. This will basically facilitate higher amount of investments. It will facilitate higher investment amongst these particular countries which are signing the double taxation avoidance agreement. So everybody is okay. If at all a question is asked on DTAA or if the component DTAA is required to be mentioned, importance to be mentioned in the mains examination, will you be able to write, let's say 100, 150 words on this? Again, if there is a requirement. If there is a requirement, please do write it. And what is the connection of DTA with MFN now? What is the connection? Why it was there in the newspaper? MFN stands for Most Favored Nation. And the most favored nation basically means if one country which is having trade relations with other countries will extend a particular relief to one country, then the same relief means, right, a provision. Relief could be a benefit. So the same benefit shall be extended to other countries as well. Same relief shall be extended to other countries as well. That is basically referred to as most favored nation, one of the principles of World Trade Organization. It is one of the principles of World Trade Organization. Is everybody okay with the concept of DTAA and MFN? Please do let me know in the chat section. Give me a confirmation that you are understanding what is being discussed, etc. Do let me know. Isn't the Google tax of 6% avoidance of DTA? My dear, Google tax is slightly different. DTAA focuses on the income sources which are generated taxation at two places. taxation at two places. The Google tax basically is a concept of equalization levy. Remember this, Google tax is nothing but the concept of equalization levy. What is equalization levy? A non-resident company, I repeat, a non-resident company, that is a company which is not resident in India. For taxation purposes, it is not registered in India. A non-resident company is generating income in India. Government of India will identify that income, impose the taxes on that income. That, my dear, for you is a Google tax. Ayush Ojha, is the concept clear? That is basically the Google tax or equalization levy that has been announced by Government of India. That was there very recently in the newspaper as well. Then everybody is okay. MFN once more. Most favored nation. And what is the most favored nation? Again, somebody will be thinking, sir, how question can be asked in the mains examination? Straightforward, static question like this. Discuss the principles. Discuss the principles on which, on which, on which the WTO operates. Discuss the principles on which the WTO operates. And that is World Trade Organization operates. What are the principles? One is the most favored nation. Second one is right a fair trade, and the third one is basically national treatment. Remember these principles. Third one is national treatment. Right? What is the most favored nation in this? Most favored nation simply means imagine India is conducting trade with multiple countries. Now, if India will provide a benefit to one country, same benefit shall be extended to all the other trading partners. That is basically called as most favored nation. At least now it is clear. At least now it is clear. If India will extend a benefit to, let's say, one country, then the same benefit shall be extended to all the other countries, all the other trading partners. That is basically the principle of non discrimination, which is most favored nation principle. Now, is it clear? Right, so questions can be asked straightforward, 150 words on DTAA, 150 words on most favored nation. Be aware of it. It has been there in the current affairs. It has been there in the current affairs. What is the connection to current affairs and Switzerland here? Simple. India is imposing, according to DTA, India is imposing certain amount of tax on investment coming from Switzerland. All of you, please listen to me carefully. What was the context here? India is receiving investments from Switzerland. Now, whatever investments are there on this, government of India under DTAA is empowered to impose a 10% tax and collect. And according to this agreement, if any other member country of OECD, if any other member country of OECD will have a trade agreement with India, whatever is the tax imposed by the government, same tax shall be extended to even Switzerland. Everybody is able to understand. Let's say another country which is part of the grouping where Switzerland is also present, and this will invest in India, and government of India will impose a tax of 5% on that, then the same tax rate shall be extended even to the investments coming from Switzerland. That is most favored nation principle applicable. Government of India imposed 5% on other countries, on Switzerland imposed 10%. And this matter went to Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court of India ruled in favor of Government of India, saying that Switzerland and the other countries which are there in the grouping, they have become part of the grouping later. Again, lot of technicalities, you don't worry. And citing that, the Supreme Court of India said this principle is not applicable. The DTAA should be right under section 90, this should be notified, etc. And that is the precise reason Switzerland took this order of the Supreme Court of India into consideration and announced that in that way I will also not provide MFN status to, right, let's say the economy of India. I will withdraw the MFN status. I will not continue to provide MFN status. Then everybody is okay, right? So these are certain points associated with this. Please have a look at these points. Okay. Is a different tariff on different countries avoidance of MFN, my dear? It will not be said as avoidance. It is violation of MFN. It will be considered as violation of MFN. But please understand, there are exceptions to MFN as well. There are exceptions to MFN. For example, let's say India will sign a trade agreement with Australia, right? And in fact, there is a trade agreement already. India, right, has basically signed a trade agreement with Australia, and India doesn't have a trade agreement with USA. Don't you think the tariff that India will impose, the taxes that India will impose on a product coming from USA will be different compared to the product which, if it comes from Australia, the tax would be different? Why? India has a trade agreement with Australia. India has a trade agreement with ASEAN. India has a trade agreement with Korea. Obviously, if you have a trade agreement, you will have to provide exemptions. You will have to reduce the taxes. So it is not a violation of MFN. It is accepted under MFN. Okay, let's go forward now. Free trade agreements. What is there in the current affairs? Please listen to me carefully. Free trade agreements. Very recently, India has started renegotiating, I repeat, renegotiating free trade agreements with many countries. India is entering into free trade agreements with many other countries. Best example, last year, India signed a free trade agreement with UAE. India signed a free trade agreement with EFTA, European Free Trade Association. India signed a free trade agreement, right, with many other countries like this. At the same point of time, India also is renegotiating, it is reviewing the existing free trade agreement. For example, the free trade agreement that India has with ASEAN, Association of Southeast Nations, ASEAN. We are renegotiating this particular trade agreement, reviewing this trade agreement. So, what is right? Basically, the objective of FTA. What has been the performance of FTA? What have been the concerns associated with FTA? What should be the way forward? That will basically address all the aspects associated with the trade agreement. Point number one, India in the last 1.5 decades, the last 1.5 decades has signed multiple free trade agreement. It has signed multiple free trade agreement. There are more than 10 agreements that India has signed with multiple countries, multiple groups in the last 1.5 decade itself. What is the objective? When you sign a trade agreement, what is the objective? The objective is to basically, one, promote investments in India. Correct? All of you will agree? Promote investments in India. Second, promote employment in India. Promote production. And finally, exports from India. Is everybody okay with the objective of FTS? What is the objective? Simple. I want to attract more investments. And those who are thinking, sir, how can you attract more investments? Imagine I will sign a free trade agreement with another country. Now, that country will agree to impose a 0% tariff when I export. Obviously, my products will become more competitive, right? It will become more cheaper compared to other countries. I'll be able to export more and more. And to export more, I need to produce more. To produce more, I need higher investment. So, higher investments, higher production, higher employment generation, higher exports. All these are the objectives with which countries enter into free trade agreements. And to achieve these only, Government of India signed multiple free trade agreements. What has been the outcome of it? What has been the outcome of free trade agreements? According to Niti Aayog report, please remember this. According to Niti Aayog report, no doubt free trade agreements have led to higher trade. The free trade agreements have actually led to higher trade. Meaning what? Once the agreement is signed, the trade between India and the other country has increased. But at the same point of time, the Niti Aayog report also says many of the sectors which are covered under the trade agreement, They have started experiencing higher deficit. They have started experiencing higher deficit. And not just this, right? The trade deficit that India had with these particular countries, a lot of them, before the agreement was signed, the trade deficit has increased after signing the trade agreement. What is the meaning of this? Let me explain this with a very simple example. And I want all of you to participate and tell me. Don't be passive observers. I don't want the people, learners in my session to become a passive observer. I want you to be active learners, active participants. Keep on telling me, keep on giving me a confirmation in the chat section that you're understanding. Right? So keep on doing like this, keep on saying yes, keep on saying no, so that I understand that you people are understanding. Let's start. Let's say there are two countries, A and B. If A is exporting $10 billion, B is exporting $20 billion before, right? Before the trade agreement is signed, the total trade agreement, I'm sorry, total trade will be how much? $30 billion. The total trade between A and B is 30 billion. And can I also say at the same point of time, the trade deficit for country A is a $10 billion. Now let's say an agreement is signed. Trade agreement is signed. As a result of the trade agreement, let's say now exports after the trade agreement will balloon to $20 billion from A to B, and from B to A they will balloon to, let's say, $50 billion. Now tell me, has the total trade increased after the agreement? Yes, it has become $70 billion. It has become $70 billion. But at the same point of time, can I say the trade deficit, TD is a trade deficit here. At the same point of time, the trade deficit also has increased to $30 billion. Now the country A, after signing the trade agreement, it is basically facing a trade deficit of 30 billion. Earlier it was 10 billion. So don't you think the situation of the first country has become worse compared to what it was before the trade agreement was signed? Right? What was the before the trade agreement? It was 10. Now it has ballooned to $30 billion. Right? So the FTA simply says, and they have quoted example as well. Right? They have quoted the example of ASEAN, Association of Southeast Nations. When we signed the trade agreement with ASEAN back in the year 2010, which came into force from 2011, between 2011 to 2017, right? Quote the data. Again, I'm saying quote the data. You want very good number of marks? You want to become IAS officer only? You want to get that additional half a marks compared to another competitor? Quote the data. And when you quote the data, let it be very legit data. Let it be the data published by government authorities. So have a look at this. According to Niti Aayog, between 2011 and to 2017, the total trade between ASEAN and India increased by $50 billion to $70 billion. Is it okay? Right? The trade increased from 50 billion to $70 billion. But at the same point of time, the trade deficit also ballooned from $5 billion to $10 billion. India's trade deficit ballooned from 5 billion to 10 billion. So now tell me, is it not a cause of concern for India then? Under the trade agreement, we should also get the benefit. Why should only the other party get the benefit? So now the question arises, what is happening? Why we are not able to get the benefit of all of this? Right? Why we are not able to get the benefit? That will bring me to the next topic of discussion, issues with exports. What is the way forward? I'll go back. Don't worry. I'll go back to FTA. I'll give you way forward. But the question, one more type of question can be, what are the issues faced by Indian exports in the global market? Discuss the issues. 250 words. Straightforward. What are the issues faced by Indian exports? I discuss the issues. 250 words, 150 words, etc. Let me give you the issues one by one. Listen to me. Remember this point. First issue that is faced by the exports from India. First issue is, one, we are focused on low value manufacturing. Please remember this. We are focused on low value manufacturing. Other countries are focused on high value manufacturing. And before you start typing, sir, what do you mean by low value, high value? Explain it to me. Right? I'm writing exam this year only. Don't scare me. What if this question is asked in the mains? Simple. Semiconductor. Is it high value or low value? Textile. That is clothes. High value or low value? You just think of this and tell me. Textile product. Is it a high value commodity or a low value commodity? The low value product. On the other side, let's say semiconductors, defense products, drones. Can I simply say high value products? So if you look at USA, where they are trying to basically focus, where they are trying to get expertise, Germany, right? Or for that matter, let's say Korea, etc. Where their focus is high value manufacturing. And we keep on running behind. Again, nothing wrong with this also, right? Because anyways, export is export. We are more focused on low value. So what should be the way forward? If you are supposed to write a way forward, what should be the way forward? Along with the low value, now government should also promote high value manufacturing in India. Is it okay? We should promote high value manufacturing in India and export these high value products to the external market. And I'll give you examples through which government is promoting high value manufacturing. Just give me a couple of minutes. First issue is this. Second issue, structural problems. Second issue is structural problems. Sir, what do you mean by structural problems? Cost of capital, cost of capital, transportation, warehousing, etc. Now you people tell me, if you take a loan, you will pay higher rate of interest compared to your competitor in China, compared to your competitor, let's say in Taiwan, compared to your competitor in Germany, Korea. Don't you think cost of production for you would be higher? If the cost of production is higher, automatically don't you think your exports would be less competitive? Everybody is on the same page with me. Please do let me know. Correct? So structural issues are there. And sir, what about transportation? Is it a problem in India? Of course, yes, my dear. Have you heard of the cost of logistics in India? And if you've heard of, let's say, the speeches of Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who is the Minister of Roadways and Transportation, very often he'll keep on pointing that the cost of logistics in India is very high. How much? Around 14 percentage of GDP. Around 14 percentage of GDP. Whereas in China, in USA, the cost of logistics is around 6 to 8 percentage of GDP. So obviously these are structural issues. These are structural bottlenecks. Until unless these are reduced, automatically your export competitiveness will not be very, very high. Right? So that is the second issue. Third issue, skilled labor availability. Is there a problem with the skilled labor availability in India? All of you please pitch in and do let me know. Anybody in the session simply says, no sir, we have a sufficient number of labor which is skilled in India. We do not face any kind of, let's say, skilled labor problem in India. Yes, skilled labor availability is a problem. You want to manufacture a lot of these products, you want to export them, but if you do not have right, if you do not have sufficient labor which is skilled, obviously it will hurt competitiveness, it will hurt the productivity. Now let me ask you one question. Can you pinpoint any one industry for me and say, sir, this is area where we have very high skilled labor availability in India? Let me see. Imagine you're sitting in the interview. I am asking you the question. Always you talk about not availability or less availability of skilled labor. My question is, can you pinpoint any industry in India where you can simply say satisfactorily, we have very high availability of skilled labor in India? Let me see how many of you are aware of these kind of things. My dear, please mention this if at all it is asked. Semiconductors. Please mention this. Semiconductors. We have very high amount of skilled labor in the semiconductor manufacturing. In fact, Government of India data says 20% of the total global skilled labor in the semiconductor manufacturing is present in India. All of you are able to understand? 20% of the global skilled labor in the semiconductor is present in India. That's a very, very high number. And please remember this also. Right? So, skilled labor availability is a problem. Fourth one, right? The barriers. Fourth one is a barrier. What do you mean by barrier here? You want to export to, let's say, China. China will impose a lot of barriers. You want to import something from China, you want to use it for manufacturing in India. China will impose a barrier. All of you are able to understand all of this is connected to current affairs. Sir, give me example. I know a lot of you will be scratching your head now. Sir, how? Give me example. My dear, you want to import fertilizer, specialized fertilizer. You want to import, right, let's say critical minerals. Have you come across the barriers which are being imposed, the blockades which are being imposed by Chinese authorities now? Is it not hurting India's manufacturing? For example, electric vehicle manufacturing in India has been hurt because of it. Right, has been affected because of this. Why? Right, basically you are not able to import the critical inputs. You want to export to USA. USA will impose a barrier. Will your exports not be hurt because of this? Of course, yes. Right, so barriers imposed by other countries will also hurt us. And one more very important point, the disruptions in the global market. The disruptions in the global market. What kind of disruptions? Let's say something is happening in the Middle East or West Asian, right, let's say countries. Will this not affect freight movement across the sea routes? Very simple question. Will it not affect the freight movement across the sea routes? You want to export, but right, there are attacks on your freights. You want to basically export, containers are not sufficiently available. You want to export, right, because of these kinds of wars which are happening, attacks which are happening, insurance cost of a freight transportation has basically skyrocketed. So I hope you understand there are various security issues which will basically hamper the exports as well as the imports that you want to do to the rest of the world. So now please do let me know. Everybody is okay, right? The five, I've given you five. You can keep on writing, but I've given you five sufficient data to prove that Indian exports, right, are affected in the global market because everybody is okay. Please do let me know now in the chat section. Everybody is okay. If a question is asked for 250 words, will you be able to write? What is the problem? Why we are not able to increase our exports in the global market, etc., etc. Now come back to the discussion here. So what is the solution then? What is the way forward? The way forward is very simple. One, we have to negotiate trade agreements with larger economies. Please remember this. We will have to negotiate trade agreements with larger economies. Why do you think we are negotiating with USA? Despite so many, right, let's say the issues, right, regarding the, right, let's say the way USA is trying to negotiate, USA is trying to push us into a corner. Why do you think we are negotiating with USA? USA is one of the largest trading partner for us. USA is one of the largest trading partner. We have a trade surplus with USA. So don't you want to export more into that particular country where you already have a very good, let's say, market share? Very simple. So enter into trade agreements with the countries whose sizes are larger. For example, you have agreement with UK now. Good. You are negotiating an agreement with European Union. Good, large market. You are negotiating a trade agreement with the USA. That is also good. So I hope you understand. Enter into trade agreements with larger economies. Larger. I'm not talking about the number of countries. I'm talking about larger size of the economies. That is the first way. Second one, whenever you have these kind of trade agreements, basically focus on including certain provisions such as compulsory review of the trade agreement. insist on the clause to review the trade agreement. That is, let's say India will negotiate a trade agreement with one country where there will be a provision saying once every 5 years we will review the impact of the trade agreement. Because once the review is done, if India feels the trade agreement is not working for us, it is hurting us, then we can ask for renegotiation. We can basically talk about renegotiations, etc. That is the second one. Third one, lot of time trade agreements focuses on reduction in the tariff. You focus on the reduction in the tariff. But what about non-tariffs? Lot of these trading partners over a period of time will keep on imposing more and more non-tariff barriers. And when you have more and more non-tariff barriers, automatically it will hurt your export. You might have an agreement, but if they have non-tariff barriers, because again I'm reiterating this, agreements generally focus on tariff barriers. Agreements generally focus on the reduction and the elimination of tariff barriers. What if the other country will start imposing non-tariff barriers? So insist on reducing non-tariff barriers. And you will have to ensure that the trading partners will not be implementing non-tariff barriers. If that is done, automatically your exports would be affected. Fourth one, include the industries, include the sectors which are competitive. Include the sectors which are competitive. What do you mean by competitive here? Imagine India will sign a trade agreement with USA. Agriculture is one of the sectors. Do you think Indian farmers will be competitive with, right, let's say American farmers? Just do let me know. Because in case of India, around 86 to 87% of the farming is small and marginal. As per the agriculture census, more than 86% is the small and marginal. You think Indian farmers will be competing with the American farmers? They will flood the Indian market. They will basically flood the Indian market. And of course, yes, there are multiple arguments which have been other arguments which have been put forward by government of India. But one of the argument which is central is India's agriculture is not competitive enough. It is not competitive enough to compete with, let's say, American farmers. Right? So try to include those industries, those sectors which are competitive. And what will lead to because of this? If these industries which are competitive are covered under the trade agreement, your exports automatically will start increasing. Your exports automatically will start increasing. And the fifth one, focus on providing, right, let's say, the support, assistance, right, to basically exporters. Lot of these exporters face issues. For example, access to institutional credit, interest equalization, right, or for that matter, let's say marketing, right, their products in the international market, etc. So provide lot of these assistance to the exporters which will increase the exports from the domestic market to the international market. Everybody is okay? Please do let me know. I've covered multiple aspects in this particular debate which is happening. Everybody is okay? If the question is on FTAs, will you be able to write an answer? If the question is on why exports are not increasing, right, or why exports are not increasing according to the government estimates, will you be able to write? What is the way forward to promote more and more exports? Will you be able to write the answer? Then can we move forward now? Can we move forward? Okay. Next, why with larger economies? Why not with smaller countries? My dear, let's say you will enter into trade agreement with 10 of the poorest countries in the world. Think of this. Ghansham, my dear, I'm addressing your doubt as well. And I hope you know Ghansham. My name is Sham. I am Sham. You are Ghansham. Right? So, one Sham to another Sham. Listen to the answer now. Imagine India will enter into trade agreement with 10 of the poorest economies. Poorest means very small economies. Now, you tell me, entering into these particular trade agreements is more beneficial for you or entering into trade agreement with USA, UK, European Union, and let's say China. Again, with China, we are not negotiating, but let's assume China. You tell me, Where do you think you will get more benefits? Entering into agreement with larger economies or entering into agreements with very, very small economies? I'm not saying don't enter, but I'm saying focus on larger economies because larger economy means very high demand for goods and services. If there is very high demand for goods and services and that economy has very good purchasing power as well, you will be able to export more and more. Everybody is able to understand, you will be able to export more and more. And that is the reason. And that is the reason I hope you understand. If there is a recession in USA, the Indian market will be worried. If there is a recession in, right, let's say European Union, Indian market will be worried. Reason being, these are very large markets. They are very large markets. We can export more and more. And everybody is okay. Let's move on now. Right, legalization of MSP. This is one more debate that is happening. That again focus is on mains. Okay, legalization of MSP. What is the demand? Currently, the minimum support price, there is no law. There is absolutely no law which guarantees MSP for the farmers. The government of India annually announces MSP, but there is no piece of legislation mandating that the government must announce MSP. What if tomorrow government of India discontinues MSP? Correct? All of you are able to understand the contention of the farmers? Again, I'm saying contention of the farmers. The contention of the farmers is because there is no law, there is no mandate. What if the government of India tomorrow says, sorry, I will not announce MSP? Farmers will start suffering because of that. And that is the precise reason why the farmers are demanding a legalized MSP. Legalization of MSP. Meaning what? Introduce a law. Under the law, right, there should be a provision which will mandate that the government should announce MSP. That is the demand of the farmers. But let's do the critical evaluation. Again, the focus is on critical evaluation. First and foremost, please do let me know those who are present in the session. What are the benefits of MSP? Let me see. What are the benefits of MSP? If UPSC will ask you, discuss the benefits of the policy such as minimum support price. What are the points you will write? Tell me now. And I will also see how many of you will be able to write. Tell me what are the points you will write if the question is discuss the benefits of the minimum support price. First one, can I simply say it will guarantee the price for the farmers? Yes or no? Think of this and do let me know. It will guarantee price for the farmers. Why? Whatever be the market price, the government is simply saying even before you sow the crop, even before you sow the seed, government is saying this is the money I will pay. This is guaranteed price. Second, don't you think it will help? It will basically help the farmers from basically the volatility in the market. It will help the farmers protect the farmers from the volatility in the market. That is, in the market, the prices are determined by supply and demand. The prices are determined by supply and demand. That's the reason you will see a lot of times tomato farmers. Basically, they will throw the tomatoes on the road and they will sit on the side of the road. And that's a news channels will capture that and they will get very high TRP. But what is the problem there? The problem is government is not guaranteeing the price for tomatoes. Whereas if you're a farmer who is cultivating other crop which is covered under MSP, you can sell it to government. Government will procure. Government will provide certain safety. Government will provide protection to you against market volatility. Third one, don't you think MSP policy will help diversification of the crops? It will help in diversification of the cultivation. Meaning what? Government simply says, I am not announcing MSP for one or two crops. I am announcing MSP for more than 20 crops. And because the government announces MSP for more than 20 crops, the farmers will be cultivating many of these particular crops. It will help in the diversification of cultivation in the agriculture. Diversification of the crops. Fourth one, what is the fourth benefit? It will help the farmers basically move out of low income trap. Remember this. It will help the farmers to move out of low income trap. And what do you mean by low income trap? Your earnings are lesser, your investment will be lesser. Correct? If your investment is lesser, production will be lesser. When your production is lesser, supply will be lesser. And tell me now, if your supply is lesser, can I simply say, again it will come to the starting point, earning will be lesser. So farmer will continue to fall into this kind of a trap. But government of India simply says, your earning is lesser because you are selling the crop in the market. Market prices are not stable. Market prices are unstable. Now, what if I basically break the cycle? I will break the cycle. How? I will guarantee the earning to you. I will guarantee the earnings. That is, whatever be the market demand and supply, least bothered, I will give you per kg this much amount of money when I procure it from you. So now tell me, by guaranteeing the earnings here, can I simply say the government will help break this kind of a cycle? It will help the farmer move out of this particular trap. And that is also one of the benefits of minimum support price. Is everybody okay with this? Please do let me know. Is everybody okay with this? Again, these are the objectives, right? Are we achieving the objectives? Are there any concerns with the MSP policy? Of course, yes. I'll come to that. These are the objectives. But now, regarding the legalization of MSP, let me explain what are the points here. Point number one, the benefits. Let me explain first what are the benefits. Then we can also have a look at the concerns or issues associated with legalization of MSP. The benefits are one, the farmers, more and more of these farmers will be covered under the policy of MSP. Is everybody okay with the point number one? More and more farmers will be covered under MSP now. And because there is a legal MSP, legal mandate of MSP, government has to procure the food grain. Government has to pay the MSP now. That is one benefit. Second benefit is there is a lot of distress in the agriculture sector. There is a lot of distress in the agriculture sector. Everybody will accept this. Anybody in the class who will simply say, no, sir, no stress. All the farmers are earning very high amount of income. All the farmers have moved out of poverty now, etc. Anybody in the class will say this. Is a distress. A lot of financial stress is being faced by the farmers. The farmers are falling into debt trap. Right? So distress is there. Now, if the government will guarantee MSP, right, government simply says sell the crop, I will pay MSP to you. And don't you think to a very great extent, the distress in the agriculture sector, the distress faced by the farmers will be reduced? Correct? Right? The distress in the agriculture sector will go down because of this. Third one, third one, government, right, basically will be promoting more food security now. Government will be able to promote better food security now. That is, cultivation will be higher. Government will be able to procure more crops. Government will be able to distribute more and more these crops through the public distribution system. It's good for the economy. It is definitely good for the economy. But at the same point of time, listen to me carefully. Legalization of MSP will also cause a lot of issues. Legalization of MSP will cause a lot of problems. What are the problems? First one. Now tell me, if the government will provide guaranteed MSP for all the 20 plus crops, don't you think the market prices of the crops will start increasing? Yes or no? Please tell me now. The market prices will start increasing. Why? Imagine I'm a farmer. You are a trader. I will simply come to you. I want to sell the crop to you. Now, if you simply quote a price lesser than the MSP, I will not sell to you. I will sell it to the government. I will simply sell it to the government. Why? Government simply says, bring it to me. There is a legal obligation. Now, I will pay the MSP. So, don't you think market prices will start increasing? And when the market prices will start increasing, as a result of this, private procurement would be affected. Correct? Private procurement will be affected. And as a result of higher market prices, what do you think will happen to food inflation? Food inflation will also start trending upwards. Food inflation will also start moving upwards. So far, so good. Please do let me know. Private procurement, and the third one is food inflation. Fourth outcome, if the government will guarantee MSP, pay MSP, procure the food grain, what do you think will happen to overall expenditure of the government? Overall expenditure will increase. What about the deficit? The deficit of government will also start increasing. Correct? Deficit will also start increasing. Right? So this is one more concern. Fifth one, fifth concern. Already other countries such as USA is alleging that government of India follows a market distorting policy. I presume all of you have read subsidy policy, connection to World Trade Organization, connection to agreement on agriculture. Right? So I'm presuming that. So already the developed countries such as USA allege that India is violating the agreement on agriculture. India, by having a MSP policy, is right creating market distortion. It is causing market distortion, etc. Now, in that particular context, if government will guarantee MSP, don't you think allegation of market distortion will be much higher? Is it okay? The allegation of market distortion and the pressure on the government of India will be much higher. And finally, government of India will pay MSP, procure the food grain. Do you think government has sufficient warehousing capacity? Think of this. Do you think government of India has sufficient warehousing capacity? No, they do not have sufficient warehousing capacity. In fact, the Food Corporation of India takes a warehousing capacity on lease basis and pays money for it. Although we are promoting warehousing capacity development now, we have shortage of warehousing capacity. So everybody is able to understand. So lot of concerns associated with this kind of a legalization of MSP, and that is a precise reason. So far, government of India has not announced a legalization of minimum support price. Can I move forward to the next concept now? Do let me know in the chat section. Can I move on to the next concept? Concern 2 and 3. What is concern 2 and 3? My dear, if the market prices are higher, the private traders will not be able to procure at lesser prices. They will have to pay more prices. And if they will pay more prices, for example, the shopkeeper who is giving you rice now will sell the rice to you at higher market price. And the domestic inflation will start increasing. Is it okay? Done. Ghansham is a tariff against two rules. Right? If you're talking about, has USA announced the tariff against WTO rules? Yes, right. It is against WTO rules. But please understand, under WTO, the member countries are allowed to impose tariffs or these kind of policies under the guise of national security. Under national security, they are allowed to do that. And that is a precise reason the member countries, whenever they are announcing a tariff like this, they will use a law in their domestic market to basically say national security problem is there. Hence, I will announce right the tariff. Anyways, let's go forward. Gender budgeting concept. Gender budgeting concept. Point number one. In India, the gender budgeting as a concept has been introduced from the year 2005 and 2006. Remember this. From the year 2005 and 2006, we have started implementing the concept of a gender budgeting. What is gender budgeting? Allocation of the funds, utilization of the funds, evaluation of utilization of funds. This process is called as gender budgeting. Is everybody okay? I'll repeat it again. What is gender budgeting? How we allocate the funds, how the funds are utilized, and what is right effectiveness of utilization of the funds. That process is called as gender budgeting concept. Sir, what is the need for gender budgeting? My dear, a large chunk of population in India consists of women and girl children. Correct? Right? According to the census, around 47 to 48% is women. Again, when I say women in this context, include girl children as well. Right? So it is the duty of the government to empower the population. It is the duty of the government to provide education. It is the duty of the government to ensure sufficient jobs are available in the market. For that purpose, Government of India follows a process called as gender budgeting concept. Under gender budgeting concept, please have a look at this. There are three types of schemes. There are three types of schemes. One is called as a Part A, second Part B, and third Part C. Part A, B, and C. What is the meaning of Part A, B, and C? And please focus here. Part C earlier was not there as a part of gender budgeting. Part C was earlier not as a part of gender budgeting, has been introduced very, very recently. Now, what is the meaning of A, B, and C here? Those schemes where 100% of the funds are used to provide to women beneficiaries. Part A. Those schemes where more than 30% of funds are used to provide for women beneficiaries. Part B. Those schemes where up to 30% of the funds are used for women beneficiaries. Part C. Everybody is okay with the A, B, and C here? Please do let me know. Done? So, this is one more very important point. If you want to remember what are the examples of A, B, and C, on the right side, I have given you the examples as well. Please have a look at it. Now, what has been the impact of gender budgeting in India? This is very important. What has been the impact? Impact as well as the concern. Focus on the impact as well as the concern. The impact of gender budgeting has been that, according to the Government of India, the funds which have been allocated under gender budgeting have increased by a huge number. The funds which have been allocated under gender budgeting has increased by a large margin in the last 20 plus years. For example, please have a look at this. Back in the year 2014 and 15, 0.98 lakh crore rupees was allocated for gender budgeting. By 2014 and 15, this has ballooned. I'm sorry, by financial year 26, the latest budget estimates, it has ballooned to 4.49 lakh crore rupees. One of the highest allocations. Remember, one of the highest allocations. So the allocation under gender budgeting has increased. The concept of gender budgeting has not only become mandatory under the union budget, many of the state governments have started using this. Multiple schemes have been formulated because the gender budgeting component is there in the budget. New type of schemes have been envisaged, have been modeled, have been implemented. Right, so these are some of the positive impacts that the concept or the practice of gender budgeting has led to, being adopted under the union budget. Having said so, are there any concerns? Are there any problems with the concept of gender budgeting? One issue is lot of funds. I repeat, lot of funds which are allocated basically are allocated under Part B and Part C schemes. Is it okay? Part B and Part C schemes. That is, if you look at it, around 75% out of the total funds allocated, around 75% of the funds are under Part B and Part C. And Part B and Part C focus, basically ensure that part of the funds will go to women beneficiaries. It doesn't have the schemes which will target women beneficiaries only. It doesn't cover the schemes which are designed for women beneficiaries only. So the argument is more funds should be allocated under Part A rather than Part B and Part C. That is one. Second one, allocation of the funds is done. And in many of the years we have seen utilization of all the funds is not done. Is everybody okay? Funds are allocated, but utilization is on the lower side. You need to increase the utilization. That is second concern. Third one, out of the total budget, hardly around 8% is being allocated now. We should increase the allocation of, let's say funds under gender budgeting, because the population which requires assistance, women, girl children, etc., is very, very large in it. These are some of the issues or concerns associated with the concept of gender budgeting. Can I move on to the next topic now? Those who are present in the session, please do let me know. Participate and do let me know. Most of you have gone dormant now. When I say reply, some of you will become active. For next 1 minute, you will reply. And after 1 minute, again, sir, I was sleeping, sorry. Sir, right, I had basically slept off, I was snoring. Please participate. Wake up. All these topics are really very important for the mains examination. Everybody is okay with the gender budgeting. And those who are following the discussion, do let me know. Is it okay if I say these kind of topics generally are not discussed in the books? Right? I want to know your feedback now. I want to know your feedback. These kind of topics are not generally discussed in the books or your material that you have studied, the material that you have used for preparation. These kind of topics are dynamic plus static. Right? There is a lot of incorporation of dynamic, a lot of incorporation of static portion as well. And if you have seen the question papers of UPSC, these are the kind of questions UPSC will ask you. And these are the kind of questions that is very dynamic in nature. They will simply pick up something. For example, in recent times, there was a lot of discussion about critical minerals. Right? All of you are able to understand? Right? Critical minerals. They will ask you a question on critical minerals now. For example, discuss the reforms being undertaken by the government. Discuss the reforms being undertaken by the government to promote Atmanirbharata in critical minerals. And right, what is the question? The question is on right reforms. And what you will do, most of you will write only on critical minerals. That is, you will write the definition of critical minerals. You will give the list of 30 critical minerals decided by or notified by Government of India. You will give the states where critical minerals are available in India without actually discussing the reforms that has been undertaken, which was the actual question asked by UPSC. So please be very careful. These are very dynamic aspects. You should be aware of all of it. Let's go forward. Inflation targeting. Should we shift to the core now? There is one debate which is happening. Should we shift to the core? Because right now, I hope all of you know this, the Reserve Bank of India, which is maintaining that targeted inflation, which is responsible to maintain inflation, it basically focuses on CPI combined. All of you know this, CPI combined, that to what? Headline inflation. The target inflation rate is the headline CPI. But there is a debate. We should not use a headline. We should rather use core inflation. Right? We should not use headline. We should use core inflation. What is the debate all about? What are the arguments in favor of headline? What are the arguments in favor of core? Let me explain that. Point number one, everybody will be okay if I say core inflation will not be including the commodities whose prices are very volatile. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. The core inflation, the basket, will not include the commodities whose prices are very volatile. It will include those particular commodities whose prices are very stable, very stable. And that is the reason many experts argue when you are targeting inflation, you are deciding your interest rates, etc., use a CPI core, not CPI headline. So, what are the arguments in favor of CPI core here? The arguments in favor of CPI core is CPI core does not include the commodities whose prices are volatile. Whose prices are volatile. Sir, what are the examples of commodities whose prices are volatile? Food and fuel. Simple. Food and fuel. The food and fuel commodities, the prices are short lived. These are very volatile. So you are removing those commodities whose prices are volatile, calculating inflation, taking the remaining basket. That is always good. Second one, when you focus on the CPI headline, because of the food prices, because of the fuel prices, the headline can change very frequently. Headline can change very frequently. And because the headline changes very frequently, it will have an impact on the monetary policy. Affects monetary policy decisions very often. Is everybody okay? Affects monetary policy decisions very often. And it is true because I hope you know this. According to the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement, MPFA, the target that has been given by the Government of India to Reserve Bank of India is a 4% inflation target. 4% inflation target. And because the fuel prices are very volatile, food prices are very volatile, a lot of times inflation can suddenly jump up, reach 6%, 7%, 8%. And because the inflation target is 4%, now RBI will not have any other option but to increase interest rate to reduce inflation. So, because you are using CPI headline, which is very volatile in nature, the monetary policy making will also become very volatile. Very often, you'll be forced to change monetary policy interest rates. And that is the reason the argument of various experts is do not use the CPI headline, use the CPI core for monetary policy making. But what does RBI say? What does the RBI say? What are the arguments of Reserve Bank of India? Point number one, Reserve Bank of India simply says, doesn't matter, I will continue to use a CPI headline. I will continue to use CPI headline. Why? Point number one, please listen now. Food and fuel commodities, the prices are unstable. Correct, prices are unstable. But don't you think food and fuel prices will have an impact on common man? Yes or no? Please do let me know in the chat section. The food and fuel prices will it not affect you and me? Is our expenditure not affected because of this? The RBI simply says, how can I make a policy where I do not include the prices of food and fuel? Not possible. I can't make a policy excluding both of them. I will include both of them. Then that is the first reason. Second reason, RBI simply says, please look at what has happened in India 5 years before implementation of inflation targeting, 5 years after the implementation of inflation targeting. We introduced the concept of inflation targeting. From which year? Please do let me know those who are present. The inflation targeting as a concept was implemented from which year in India? It was implemented from 2016. Nobody is answering. I will only answer. Nobody wants to answer. Why? Sir, you are writing exam, so you tell the answer. I am not writing exam. You are writing exam, so you only tell the answer. So inflation targeting as a concept was implemented in 2016. So if you take 5 years before the inflation targeting was implemented, and if you take 5 years after the inflation targeting was implemented, what has happened to inflation? RBI simply says earlier inflation was higher. Earlier the inflation was higher. And after the inflation targeting has been implemented, inflation rate has been brought under control. Everybody is able to understand? Inflation has been brought under control. How much? 5 years before 2016, inflation averaged around 5.7%. I repeat, inflation averaged around 5.7%. 5 years after 2016, inflation averaged around 3.7%. Right? 3.7%. So basically, argument of Reserve Bank of India is what? If it is working, if the CPI headline as a target is working for us, why to change? There is no need to change. Let's continue using the same because the control on inflation has been much better. And the control over inflation after the implementation of targeting has been much better. We have been able to bring down the inflation, bring it below 4%, control it below 4%. So if we are able to control it below 4%, what is the logic of changing the target now? No need to change the target. We will continue implementing the same target, that is the CPI headline inflation. Is everybody okay with the pro as well as counter arguments of the CPI targeting the situation in India? Do let me know. Is everyone okay? Right? Can I move on to the next article? Can I move on to the next article? Common people perceive inflation has risen. My dear, inflation has risen. Who is saying inflation is not there in the Indian market? Ghansham, my dear, is anyone saying there is no inflation in Indian market? Yes, there is inflation. But please remember, whenever inflation is a moderate rate, right? Whenever inflation is in moderate rate, it is considered healthy. It is considered as healthy. Why? Now, please do let me know. Let me ask you a very simple question. A lot of you, I know, right? You are not attending my batch. I know that. Let me ask you a very simple question. Do you think 0% inflation is good for Indian economy? Do let me know. Do you think 0% inflation is good for the economy? No, my dear. 0% is not good. Minus 2%, not good. Minus 5%, not good. Right? Lot of you will be thinking, sir, inflation is bad. No, inflation is not always bad. Underline the term. Inflation is not always bad. High inflation is not good. Everybody is able to understand the statements here, and when you write the exams, use these kind of statements. Use these kind of statements. Inflation always is not bad. High rate of inflation is not good. What is the meaning of it? Why do you think we have a target of 4% then? Why not 0%? Think of it. Why not 0%? No inflation whatsoever. My dear, inflation is generally associated with demand. Remember this. Inflation is associated with demand. When inflation is there, generally along with inflation, we see demand is higher. Along with that, we see GDP is growing. So don't you want to achieve that kind of a growth in the economy? Don't you want to see higher demand for the goods and services in the economy? Yes, that's the reason we prefer a healthy rate of inflation. We prefer a healthy rate of inflation, not very high rate of inflation. At least now everything is clear. Let me go forward. Next current affairs topic I want to cover is the government of India proposing new income tax bill. New income tax bill. Finally, in this year, after the budget announcement, this year, Government of India introduced Income Tax Bill 2025. The Government of India simply says this new Income Tax Bill 2025, again, once it will become an act, it will replace the 1961 Act. Right now, we have a Income Tax Act of 1961. The Income Tax Act of 1961 will cover retail taxpayers, individual taxpayers such as you and me, will cover corporate taxes, will cover the Hindu undivided families, etc. So, right now, the provisions of the 1961 Act are applicable. Why is the government of India trying to change this? Why is the government of India trying to bring in a new kind of a policy? Reasons are simple. Point number one, the current provisions. The current provisions are very technical in nature. Lot of taxpayers do not understand the meaning of the provision. Third, over a period of time, we have kept on amending the provisions in the Income Tax Act. We have kept on amending the provisions in the Income Tax Act. And the fourth one, what was the situation of Indian economy back in 1960s? In 2020, both are completely different. Both are completely different. So we want to revise, we want to bring in new types of, let's say, provisions. We want to simplify the provisions. We want to make the provision wording very simple, which is understandable by the common taxpayer, etc., etc. Citing these particular reasons, Government of India has announced a new income tax bill. Is everybody okay? Government of India has proposed a new income tax bill. And listen to me carefully. Whenever the provisions have a very difficult language or very technical language, can there be difference of interpretation? Can there be a difference in the interpretation? How I interpret a particular provision of the income tax, right? Let's say Act of 1961, not be the same the interpretation done by a income tax official. And when there's a difference of interpretation, I will pay a different income tax, they will demand a different income tax. Disputes will arise. The number of cases, that is the number of disputes under the Income Tax Act, is very, very high now. So, one, please have a look at the last 4 points in this particular slide. Please do not keep on writing. Lot of you do not reply to my questions when I ask because you are busy in writing. You'll say, sir, right, you will change the slide. I will not be able to see the point later. All of this is there in the handout. Right, this picture which is there, it is from the handout only. It is from the notes. Let me complete the session. Download the notes later. So one reason why we want to change, right, the provisions are: one, litigation. We want to make it much more simple wording, understandable for the common taxpayer, right, so that there is no interpretation difference and there will be no litigation. We want to reduce the litigation. We want to have provisions which are very small, very simple, very easily understandable. Third one, right, lot of complaints are there because the conditions, lot of conditions are there under these provisions. The taxpayer will have to meet a lot of these conditions. It will increase the cost of compliance. We want to reduce the burden of compliance as well. What do you mean by compliance? A company will have to, right, basically have lot of documentation to file income taxes, to pay corporate taxes. And when you have lot of requirements like this, automatically the cost that you will incur will also be higher. Right? We want to reduce the compliance. And there are a lot of provisions which are outdated now. Right? These provisions were made in 1960s. Today we are in 2020s. So a lot of these provisions do not apply to the current situation. We want to simply take out these particular provisions from the income tax. Right? So these are some of the reasons which have been cited by the government of India to basically to basically revise, introduce a new bill to replace the existing Income Tax Act of 1961. Everyone is okay? Please do let me know. And this is not the first time that the government of India has tried to replace Income Tax Act. Please remember this. Earlier, when Mr. P. Chidambaram, when Mr. P. Chidambaram was the finance minister, the government back then, right, and it was Mr. Manmohan Singh was the prime minister. The government basically had introduced a piece of legislation. Remember this. In case of taxation, they proposed two very important changes: reforms in taxation. For direct taxes, they proposed a direct taxes code, DTC. For direct taxes, they proposed a direct taxes code, DTC, that will basically restructure the whole direct taxation system in India. And for indirect taxes, they proposed GST. Right now, the GST was implemented. There was a change in the government. They changed the right certain provisions, but the GST was implemented. What about the direct taxes code? In case of direct taxes code, when Mr. Arun Jaitley, he was the finance minister, 2016, Mr. Arun Jaitley simply said, no, we will not basically implement the model of a direct taxes code. Hence, the direct taxes code bill was dropped. The indirect taxes further continued the discussion. They adopted the right, let's say the bill on GST. It became an act, and now we have completed multiple years of goods and services tax. Everybody is okay. From 1st to July 2017, GST was implemented. Very recently, we have completed 8 years of GST. Correct? Very recently, we have completed 8 years of GST. I hope you know that. We are in the month of August, right? So 1st to July, we have completed 8 years of GST. Can anybody tell me what have been the benefits of GST? Very quickly, do let me know. If UPSC will ask you this question, GST has provided benefits, but there are still certain concerns associated even after 8 years of completion. Elaborate. Tell me now. Right? I'll repeat the question. Discuss the benefits as well as the concerns associated with the goods and services tax after the completion of 8 years. What will be the points you will write under benefits? Right? What will be the points you will write under benefits? Anybody? Sir, I don't want to answer. You only tell the answer. You only tell the answer. I will not write the answer. My dear, lot of your writing, it is avoiding cascading effect. It is a single tax, etc. My dear, is it the benefit of last 8 years of GST? Don't you think that is a feature of GST? Yes or no? Please tell me. I want to know your viewpoint. If you say, sir, it is a single tax, agreed. Is it a benefit or is it a feature? For 8 years, you'll keep on writing that only. You'll keep on writing that only, that it is a single tax, it is a single tax, it is a single tax. How? It is a feature. It is a feature. It is no more a benefit. Leave it. Go forward. I talk about other benefits of GST. One, please understand, the amount of taxes collected under GST have been higher. The amount of taxes collected under GST have been higher. Right? How high? You look at the GST number. Before the GST, it was a comparatively lesser. Under GST, it is much higher. On an average, we are collecting 1.6 lakh crore rupees, 1.7 lakh, 1.9 lakh crore rupees now. That is the advantage. Please write that. Second, the tax buoyancy under GST has been much better compared to the tax buoyancy before GST. How much? Before GST, the tax buoyancy was 0.9. Under GST, the tax buoyancy is 1.1, which basically means the amount of GST collection, the growth rate has been much higher compared to the pre-GST era. All of you are able to understand. The growth has been much faster under the GST compared to pre-GST era. That is very important. The cost of logistics has come down. Cost of transportation or the cost of logistics has been dragged down because of GST. How? Under GST, there is no check post system. Under GST, there is no check post. Interstate border check post system is not there. So that will help in a faster transportation. Right? It will help in reducing the time taken, reducing the consumption of the fuel. Right? It is adding to the right benefit of transportation. And fourth one, the number of taxpayers under GST has ballooned. The number of taxpayers, registered taxpayers under GST has ballooned. How much? Before GST, zero point 0.6 crore. 0.6 crore, that is around 60 lakh taxpayers were there. After GST, 1.6 crore. That is the latest data. Right? 1.6 crore. Right? So you can see there is a ballooning. There is a huge increase in the number of taxpayers who are registered under GST. And don't you think, I'll write one more point associated with this only. It has helped in promotion of formalization in the Indian economy. Correct or not? It has helped the formalization in the Indian economy. Formalization means what? Those entities which were not registered earlier will come under registration now, will come under the provisions of the laws. Right? That is essentially the outcome. Hope you understand. When the question is asked, write the benefits or the performance of GST, you will write one tax. You will write it as subsumed tax. My dear, that's a feature. That is not a benefit, it's a feature. And that was introduced after the introduction of GST only. After 8 years also, you will keep on telling the same thing. Right? That is the reason why somebody else will get more number of marks. You will get right less number of marks. Everybody is okay? Right? These are the benefits. And quickly tell me, what are the concerns or the issues associated with GST? What are the issues or concerns associated with GST? Tell me very quickly. Now people will start writing. Issues are these. Issues are these. 8-year-old issue you will tell me now. Tell me, what are the issues or concerns regarding GST after 8 years? After completing 8 years also, these are the concerns. One, can I simply say multiple slabs? Yes or no? Multiple slabs. Even today, how many slabs are there? 0, 5, 12, 18, 28. And was there a discussion associated with this also in the current affairs? Correct? Was there a discussion associated this also in the current affairs? That is basically we need to reduce the number of slabs, merge, right, 12 and 18, or remove 12 altogether, shift everything into 5, etc. Suddenly UPSC can ask you a question on this also. That is, right, the multiple slab structure has has provided certain benefits, as well as there are concerns associated with the multiple slab structure. Elaborate. Or they will simply ask you what are the pros and the cons associated with the multiple slab structure which has been followed by the government under the GST structure in India. You'll have to write why the multiple slab structure was followed. At the same point of time, what are the concerns? And then finally, what is the way forward? What is the way forward? You will have to write in that. Everybody is okay, right? So multiple slab structure is a concern. Second, any other concern that you can think of? Rationalization. Rationalization. Rationalization is also required, right? You basically need to reduce a lot of these particular, right? Let's say the taxes on certain commodities. You need to address, right, the inverted duty structure. Rationalization is also required. Third one, third, right, the disputes. The disputes, right? The dispute mechanism has been proposed. GST 80, GST Appellate Tribunal, yes, proposed. There is right a proposal which is supposed to be implemented. The center, right, the GST Appellate Tribunal, the main, right, the authority has been set up in Delhi. But the other states, right, 31, the appellate tribunals are supposed to be set up. It is supposed to be done. It is yet to be done. And the fourth one, even today we have many of the exempted commodities which are not covered under GST. As we speak, there are certain exempted commodities which are not covered under GST. Don't you think this is against the theme of one nation, one tax? Correct? All of you are able to understand? This is against the theme of one nation, one tax. Because what is the central theme of GST? One nation, one market, one tax. All of you heard of this or not? Most of you have gone silent now. Most of you have gone silent. One nation, one market, one tax. That is the central theme of GST. Right? But if there are certain commodities, for example, please do let me know. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Is it under GST? No, it is not under GST. Electricity. Right? There are so many things which are not under GST. So the idea is, then what is the objective? Are we not meeting the objective even after the completion of 8 years? That is the issue. So everybody is okay. I've given you the critical evaluation of 8 years of GST. If the question is asked, please do write it. Manjit Singh, my dear, petroleum, listen to me carefully. A lot of you will believe petroleum, ATF, diesel, etc. These are exempted from GST. Listen to me carefully. These are not exempted. There is no GST rate on these. Is it okay? I'll repeat the statement. These are not exempted. There is no GST rate on this. What is the meaning? Is there any difference? These are covered under GST, but there is no GST rate notified on these. Right? All of you are able to understand the statement? Please do let me know. These are under GST. Petroleum, it is under GST only. ATF, right? Diesel, it is under GST. We are yet to notify the GST rates. Whereas alcohol for human consumption, it is not under GST. Even today, it is there under the powers of the state government. It is there under the powers of the state government itself. Right? What is the reason why we are yet to notify the GST on petrol and diesel? Right now, center plus states put together, the tax rate applicable is very high. Simple idea. The petrol and diesel, the tax rates are very high. Center will have its own tax rate. States will have their own tax rate. So both of these put together, the tax rates are very high. How much high? Listen to me carefully. If you pay 100 rupees per liter of petrol, more than 50 rupees is because of taxes. Is it okay? At around 50 rupees, or in many states, more than 50 rupees is because of taxes. Which means, I'll use a CSAT language now. Out of 100 rupee, if 50 rupee is a tax, can I simply say the tax rate is 100% now? Let me see how many of you will understand this. I'll repeat the statement. Out of 100 rupee, which is the market price, if the tax is 50 rupees, can I say tax rate is 100%? Right? You'll be like, "Arey, what is this? Already, right? I'm eating food. I'm half concentrated. Now suddenly you will say 100% tax. Right? Gone. It is basically bounced out of my head. And so if the tax rate is 100%, what is the highest tax rate under GST? What is the highest tax rate under GST? Highest tax rate under GST is 28%. So imagine you do away with the center and the state taxes, you notify the GST rate on petrol and diesel 28%. Right? Can you imagine the amount of revenue losses incurred by both center and state because of that? That is a precise reason we are yet to notify the GST rates on petrol and diesel. Done? Let me go forward. Right? Need to impose higher taxes on the rich. Right? What is the need? There is one debate, we should impose higher taxes. There is another debate, no, it will hurt. The benefits will be lesser compared to the damage that it will cause. What is the right argument in favor? Argument against? Let's understand. Very recently, one of the economists, very well known economist by the way, one of the economists has proposed that India has one of the highest number of billionaires. Okay, that's a fact by the way, not a debate. Fact. India has one of the highest number of billionaires in the global market. If the number of billionaires are very high, why doesn't government of India impose a higher rate of taxation on them, collect more taxes? Correct? It does make sense because the billionaires are earning very high amount of money. Why not impose a tax on them and collect more taxes? How much? Their argument was just impose a 2% more tax. Impose a 2% more tax on these people. And the revenue that you will be able to generate will be very high. You can use it for social welfare purposes. You can simply use it for social welfare purposes. This was the argument. And this was the argument. So, what are the benefits or what are the arguments in favor? Right? One person, I'm not able to read the full name, right? But ends with the 777 username, ending with 777 says that it is Thomas Piketty. Absolutely right. Right? It was Mr. Thomas Piketty. Right? Anybody has read books written by Thomas Piketty? Do let me know. If not read, don't panic. UPSC is not going to ask you that question. So come back to the discussion. What are the arguments in favor of this? What are the arguments against this? Let's understand. Arguments in favor of this is one, there is a right canon of taxation. There is something called as canon of taxation. Canon means principle. One of the canons of taxation simply says impose the taxes according to the capacity of the taxpayer. The capacity to pay taxes. Is it okay? Impose the taxes which is according to right the capacity of the taxpayer to pay the taxes. So if there is a billionaire, the billionaire has a higher capacity to pay more taxes. So why not basically impose a high taxes? Is the first point clear to all of you? Impose high taxes because that is what the canon of taxation says. That is what the canon of taxation says. Because I hope you understand. Imagine there are two people. One is right. Let's say the household which is very poor. Another one is household which is very rich, high net worth individual. Don't you think government will impose more taxes on the high net worth individual and right zero taxes on a poor household? What is the logic behind this? Why our income tax structure is progressive like this? All of you understand the statement? Why our income tax structure is progressive? Because we simply say, right, the person with higher income has higher capacity to pay taxes. So let me impose more taxes, collect it from them. Right. So one is right the canon of taxation. Second one, government requires a very high amount of revenues, requirement of tax receipts. Correct? The government has very high requirement of tax receipts. Sir, why does government require tax receipts? My dear, government of India has to spend money on capital expenditure. Government has to spend money on, right, let's say social welfare. So our dependence on the tax receipts is very, very high. That is good. And third one, don't you think when billionaires earn lot of money, the billionaires are earning so much amount of money, it is their obligation as well. That is, it is a social obligation on billionaires. They should do good for the country. They should provide benefit to the countrymen. Right? By how? By paying more taxes. Let them contribute more taxes, which shall be used for benefit of other people. Right? Done. Everybody is able to understand. These are arguments in favor. And I hope you understand by imposing higher taxes like this, the government will be able to reduce income inequality. They'll be able to reduce income and wealth inequality, which is existing in Indian market. Income and wealth inequality. Everybody is okay, please do let me know. Right? It will help in reducing the wealth and income inequality. But at the same point of time, there are concerns now. There are issues or concerns. What are the issues or concerns? Point number one, it's not that the rich people are not paying high taxes. The effective tax rate, I repeat, the effective tax rates in India are one of the highest in the global market. All of you understand the term effective tax rate? Please do let me know in the chat section. All of you understand the term effective tax rate? What is the maximum effective tax rate applicable in case of India? The effective tax rate in case of India is around 43%. The effective tax rate is around 43%. That's a very, very high number, by the way. It's a very, very high number. Right? There are various countries where income taxes are not collected. There are various countries where income taxes are not collected, by the way. And here is a country where effective tax rate is so high. Right? So that is one concern. Second concern, if government will further increase the tax rate, it will lead to, right, let's say these billionaires shifting their residence from India to foreign country. They will simply, right, the HNIs will shift the residence. They will simply shift the residence. From India, they will shift to, let's say, Singapore. From India, they will shift to, let's say, Dubai. From India, they will shift to, let's say, Oman. Right? And I hope all of you know this. Oman has a 0% income tax rate right now. Of course, they have proposed to change it. That will happen, right, in the coming years. But right now, what is the income tax rate in Oman? 0%. You generate any amount of income, I'm not going to collect even a single rupee income tax from you. So you tell me, if you're already paying very high amount of taxes, and the government, in order to, right, let's say achieve certain social objective, will increase the tax rate on you, basically these people will start shifting their residence. They will move out of India. Is it okay? They will move out of India. That will hurt, right, the tax prospects of, or the tax receipts of government of. Third one, there are multiple times that talks about imposing wealth taxes, inheritance taxes, etc. Right? Please listen to me carefully. These kind of taxes already have been tried out by government of India. Right? All of you are able to understand? The wealth tax, inheritance tax, etc. These kind of taxes have already been tried out by government of India in the past. And we have discontinued them. We have discontinued. Why? We realize that once we implement these kind of taxes, there is right, basically lot of expenditure that you will have to incur to collect these taxes. You'll have to hire extra income tax officials. You'll have to keep a very close watch on the documents submitted by these high net worth individuals, etc., etc. So the cost of collection of these taxes, right, will make it basically uneconomical exercise to impose and collect the taxes. So it's not that we have not tried out these kind of taxes. We have already tried it out. But these are not very effective. These are not very effective in terms of how much expenditure you will incur and how much taxes you will collect. And moreover, Lot of these particular high net worth individuals will have a wealth in the form of assets. Correct? They will have the wealth in the form of assets. For example, they will have shares, right? They will have many other instruments, many other securities. They will have right land. They will have properties, etc. How do you collect taxes as long as these are not traded? These are not sold in the market. All of you are able to understand? If these are not sold, how do you collect taxes? You can bring in a wealth tax. You can bring in inheritance tax. But they should have money in order to pay taxes, right? If these are not sold, from where will you get the money to pay taxes to the government? Right? So a lot of these are held in assets, very difficult to estimate and collect the taxes on yearly basis. So these are some of the arguments which have been put forward against these kind of taxes which are being proposed to be implemented, to be imposed on rich or high net worth individuals. Can I move on to the next one now? Please do let me know. Those are present in the session. Do let me know. Can I move on to the next topic now? Are Baba, reply. I know you people are busy. I know you people are having food. Some of you are doing right dual watching. Right, sir. Netflix on one side, right? A web series on one side, and right, basically on the other side, you're shouting in the monitor. Right, I'm doing this also. Doing this also. Okay, can I move forward now? Next topic I want to cover, that is a concept of rupee internationalization and de-dollarization. Okay, rupee internationalization and de-dollarization. Okay, Ram Singh, right? Where were you, Baba? You're missing. You're missing from the action for the last how many hours? 2 hours, right? Almost 2 hours, 20 minutes you're missing. Effective tax rate means what is the tax rate? Plus, right? The cesses plus surcharges, right? Okay, cesses plus surcharges, because when you pay the taxes, you will not just pay the tax rate. The government will also impose the surcharges as well as cesses. So when you include the surcharges and cesses, what will be the actual tax rate? That is called as effective tax rate. Right? Everybody is okay? Right? That is called as effective tax rate. Okay, let's go forward to the next article. Next concept, rupee internationalization and de-dollarization. This particular term has been there in the discussion very, very recently, right? And this has been there in the last discussion for the last 1.5 years. What is the basic idea? Basic idea is simple. There are multiple currencies which are used for conducting transactions in the global market. Global market, meaning what? Today, if I conduct a trade, buy or sell something in India, I will settle the transaction using rupees. Correct? I will settle the transaction using rupees. Can I use rupees if I import something from USA? Can I use rupees if I import something from China? Can I use rupees if I want to purchase assets in Britain? Not possible. Why? Rupee is not an accepted currency in the international market. Right? And what are the currencies which are accepted in the international market for conducting transactions? These are freely convertible currencies. Remember this, freely convertible currencies. Right? These are mainly US dollar. In addition to US dollar, you have pound, you have right euro, you have yen, you have yuan. And by the way, these currencies are the currencies which are used by IMF in the right STR basket. Yes or no? Please do let me know. These are the same currencies which are present in the STR basket used by IMF to calculate what is the unit of one STR. All of you are able to connect it to, let's say, certain static concepts that you have learned. Right? So please understand. These are freely convertible currencies. But out of these freely convertible currencies, which is the most accepted currency, which is most used currency in international transaction, which currency has the highest confidence in the market? That will be dollar. That will be dollar. US dollar, by the way, because the dollar is also used by Australia. I'm not talking about Australian dollar. I'm talking about US dollar. So argument is In the international market, most of the reserves, most of the transaction, most of the settlement of the debt, etc., is done in the USA dollar. But the concern is USA and the Western countries tend to weaponize the dollar. All of you are okay with the statement here? They tend to weaponize this particular currency. What do you mean by weaponization? Russia attacked Ukraine. The Western countries came together. They imposed sanctions on Russia. They pushed Russia out of the SWIFT system. Automatically, the amount of trade that was conducted by Russia with the rest of the world was disrupted. Correct? It was disrupted. And when other countries want to conduct trade and settle in other currencies, USA will threaten them. For example, very recently, there was a talk about BRICS common currency. There was a talk about a common currency in the BRICS. USA threatened, saying that if you use a common currency and if you replace a dollar, then I will impose a tariffs on you. Right? I will penalize you, etc. So this is essentially called as weaponization of dollar. So what is the solution to all of this? Is it okay? What is the solution to all of this? China has been proposing lot of transactions to be conducted in their domestic currency. For example, I hope all of you know this. China is one of the major oil buyers of Russia. India is the major oil buyer now. The largest oil buyer from Russia is India. After India, which is the other country? China. And when they're conducting trade with, right, let's say Russia, they can't use a dollar. For payment, they can't use dollar. So instead of dollar, they're using Chinese currency. Is everybody able to understand? They're basically conducting the transactions in Chinese currency. That is renminbi. What about India? India is also trying to do the same thing. India is promoting the internationalization of rupee. Internationalization of rupee. What is the meaning of this? The rupee will not only be used in the domestic market, but will also be used in the international market now. It will also be used in the international market. Right? Rupee will be used to store as a part of forex reserve. Rupee will be stored, right, and will be used to invest back in India, just like dollar. Rupee will be used to conduct transactions, to settle the debt, etc. Not only in India but outside India. So the promotion that is being done by the government, right, regarding the utilization of rupee in the global market, this is basically the concept of internationalization of rupee. Is everybody okay with the term internationalization of rupee? Please do let me know. And de-dollarization effectively means moving away from dollar. Right? We are replacing the dollar with other currency. That is called as de-dollarization. Right? So what is the objective? Right? What is the benefit of internationalization? Why should we promote internationalization? One, if you promote rupee as an international currency, don't you think you do not have to convert rupee to dollar and dollar to rupee to pay for imports and exports? And when you don't have to convert from rupee to dollar, dollar to rupee, the charges that you will have to pay will also be wiped out. Because today, if you want to pay rupees and get a dollar, you will have to pay money for it. I hope you understand. You have dollar, you want to convert that into rupee, you'll have to pay charges for this. But let's say payment is done in rupees, payment is received in rupees. What is the requirement to convert into dollar? No requirement. The cost of transaction automatically will go down. Rupee will be used in the international market. What is the use of storing the dollar in the forex? No requirement. You'll be basically doing away with the forex requirement. You will reduce your reliance. I hope you understand. You will reduce your reliance on dollar. If they want to impose sanctions now, we will not be worried. We are least bothered. Why? They will impose sanctions, but it will not affect us because we are using rupees to settle the trade. We are using rupees to purchase. We are getting the payment in the form of rupees. So there are a lot of benefits that are associated with internationalization of rupee. At the same point of time, there are equally concerns. There are equally concerns associated with making rupee as an international reserve currency. Point number one, in case of India, please understand, even today as I speak, there is no full capital account convertibility. Is the point clear to all of you? Do let me know. There is no full capital account convertibility. Current account, yes. Current account is fully convertible. Capital account is partially convertible in India. So when you have a capital account which is partially convertible, don't you think other countries would not be preferring to hold their reserves in the form of Indian rupee? Because partial convertibility means what? Restriction over investments in India. Restriction over how much money you can invest in the bond market, in purchasing government bonds, etc. etc. There are restrictions. So when you have these kind of restrictions in the capital account, why will a foreign investor be interested, or why the foreign country will be interested in holding rupee where they cannot invest all of it in the Indian market? All of you are able to understand? Let me connect it to current affairs to make you understand this. Have you heard of the term Vostro accounts? Russia, right, is having rupees in India in their Vostro accounts. What has RBI done? Because a lot of Indian rupee was simply pending, were kept in the Vostro account, RBI simply said, we will relax the conditions. Want to invest in these government bonds? Go ahead. I will relax the condition. You can invest in government bonds. So, if these kind of restrictions are there, why will foreign countries be holding rupee in the form of, right, let's say forex reserve? They will not be interested. Right. So, first is if you want to promote internationalization, then you will have to ensure that there is capital account convertibility. Otherwise, no, it is not possible. Right. Foreign countries will not be interested in storing rupees in the form of forex reserves. Second, have a look at this. If you allow for rupee to be used as an international currency, lot of foreign investors will start investing in India and they will start holding assets in India. Ownership of Indian assets will be held by foreign investors now. Is it not a cause of concern for us? For example, Chinese investors will own assets in India. Is it not a cause of concern? And you must have seen this in the newspaper. China holds a huge amount of government of USA bonds. Correct? Right? Or for that matter, let's say the Japan country, right? The Central Bank of Japan holds huge amount of government bonds of USA. Right? What is the problem here? Your domestic assets are largely are being held by foreign investors. If they want to create a destabilization effect, they will start simply dumping these particular financial assets. Essentially, it will create volatility, it will destabilize the economy. Everybody is able to understand? Foreign investor residents would be owning lot of assets, always a cause of concern. Large holdings of such financial assets will increase vulnerability to the external events. Conversion of currencies would reduce addition to the forex reserves. You're basically investing rupee, receiving payment in rupee, you're paying in rupee, right? So addition to the forex reserves will not happen now. Right now, you have forex reserves, you have dollars in that, you'll be storing lot of dollars. You'll be adding lot of forex reserves. You'll be maintaining forex reserve. But if everything happens in rupee, right, the accretion or the addition to the forex reserves will not happen. Right? It will also make very difficult in terms of decision making in the monetary policy. Why? If everything is allowed in terms of rupees, investments can easily come into India. Investments can easily go out of India. Don't you think monetary policy will be much more mindful under the new system? What do you mean by mindful? Today, if RBI will cut down the interest rates, if RBI will reduce interest rate, certain amount of investments will go out of India because lower interest rates in India. But please tell me, because in the first place, we have imposed a restriction regarding inflow, outflow will also be not very high impactful. All of you are able to understand how much is coming into India? We have imposed a restriction there itself. So when RBI will cut down the interest rate, there will be outflow, but that will not be creating a larger impact. But now, imagine no restriction. At free convertibility, right? The capital account is fully convertible. There will be huge inflow and RBI will cut interest rate. Sudden, there is a huge outflow. Is it not going to have a larger impact? Is it okay? Will it not have a larger impact? Of course, yes. So RBI will be more worried. RBI's policy making will be more concerned about the volatility that the policy can create in the market. Done? Okay, so these are some of the concerns or issues associated with rupee internationalization. Is everybody okay? If questions are asked, critically evaluate the objective of, right, let's say rupee internationalization, the benefit of it, as well as the concerns associated with this. Everybody will be able to write an answer in 250 words. In fact, the points that I've written here, the points themselves are more than 250 words. So even if you explain these particular points, it will be much, much bigger answer. Okay, let me go forward. Next is the cooperative policy 2025. Regarding cooperatives, please be very careful. Lot of initiatives have been taken very recently. Right, a lot of initiatives have been taken very recently in the context of cooperatives. So questions can be asked. Be very, very careful. Point number one, the concept of cooperatives is not new in India. It has been promoted even before independence. By the way, please remember the first Cooperatives Act in India was right implemented back in 1904. 1904 Cooperatives Act of 1904. And over a period of time, when before independence as well as after independence, multiple reforms have been implemented to promote cooperatives. Right now, why the cooperatives is so much in discussion in 2025? Right, please understand the United Nations. I repeat, United Nations has right. Ghansham is saying United Nation has declared 2025 as International Year of Cooperatives. Is the point clear? United Nations has announced 2025 as International Year of Cooperatives. Right? And in addition to this, in the last couple of years, multiple other reforms also have been implemented. For example, back in 2021, is it written? No, it is not written. I'll write it, don't worry. Back in 2021, the government of India set up a separate ministry of cooperation. Correct? Separate ministry of cooperation. From 1989, this cooperation was part of Ministry of Agriculture. It was under the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, Government of India has created a separate Ministry of Cooperation. In addition to this, we are promoting right computerization of 67,000 primary agriculture cooperative societies. That is being promoted. Right, we are basically promoting establishment of new type of right multi-state, multi-purpose cooperatives. We have a decentralized food grain storage. We have implemented an initiative to develop warehousing at a PSCS level, the primary agriculture credit society level. Right. We also have created a national database to maintain cooperatives data. We have also set up, right, announced a setting up of the Tribhuvan Das Sahakari University in state of Gujarat. We also have announced White Revolution 2.0. So I hope you understand. In the last couple of years, multiple initiatives to promote cooperatives in the market. Now, the latest initiative is the government of India has announced the new cooperative policy 2025. The earlier cooperative policy was announced back in the year 2002. The cooperative policy, right, was announced back in the year 2002. This new policy will be replacing the 23-year-old existing policy. Now, what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to achieve under this particular new policy? Listen to me carefully. The government of India, that is Ministry of Cooperation, simply says, right, these cooperatives are facing certain structural issues. So, under the new policy, we will set up a committee, we'll set up a task force. This task force will study the challenges faced by the cooperative and will also recommend certain changes. Will give recommendations to the government. That is the first one. Second one, there are a lot of, I hope you understand, there are a lot of primary agriculture credit societies in India. But lot of these credit societies are not able to perform well. Right? To improve the performance, the policy has recommended we should set up an institution, that is a bank at the national level, which will basically provide support to the PSES, which will promote better performance of the PSES, Primary Agriculture Credit Societies. Right now, we have more than 8 lakh cooperative societies. More than 8 lakh. Under this policy, we want to increase the number of cooperatives by 30%. Right? We want to increase the number of cooperatives by 30%. Whatever is the contribution of these cooperatives to the GDP, we want to triple the contribution in the next decades. We want to triple the contribution. Right? So I hope you understand. I've given you around 5 to 6 particular points specifically from the new cooperative policy 2025. Again, I hope you understand this point as well. The new cooperative policy is very, very extensive. It is extensive. How extensive? The policy document is more than 30 pages. Right? I hope all of you understand this. The policy document, that is the 2025 policy document, is more than 30 pages. If you want to read it, which I will never recommend, why 30 pages? What is the need to read 30 pages? What is the need to make notes? Right? What is the need to make notes of 10 pages and remember 10 pages? Right? Not required. So remember 6 to 7 points and mention these particular points specifically from the new policy 2025 and say, with this kind of a policy, the government of India is aiming to, right, basically promote development as well as growth. Simple. Development as well as growth. Or else they will use the term, the context of the cooperatives, they will use the term prosperity through cooperation. I'll repeat the statement. Prosperity through cooperation. Right? They can use the same statement in the mains examination in the form of a question. Or else, if they want to make the question difficult to you, they will use a Hindi word. They'll simply use a Hindi word. Sahakar se samruddhi. Correct? All of you heard of this? Sahakar se samruddhi. That is a straightforward question like this. Explain how cooperatives will help us in achieving Sahakar se samruddhi. That's it. And that's it. And lot of you people will be confused because they are using Hindi words. Right? Instead of Hindi words, they can use English. That is prosperity through cooperation. Or else they might simply ask you a question like this. Explain how the new cooperative policy of 2025 will help us in promoting growth as well as a development. Or else they will use one more term, fourth question by the way. How the new cooperative policy 2025 will help us in achieving inclusive growth. So everybody is okay. I've given you multiple questions, right, using this concept of a cooperative policy of 2025 itself. Having said so, please remember the next point as well. Does it mean announcement of the policy will automatically lead to positive results? Does it mean, right, the policy will be addressing all the problems? Are there any concerns or the issues associated with the cooperatives? It will be there. For example, lot of these cooperatives function on the concept of, right, elections. All of you heard of this? Cooperatives function on the concept of elections. Can you reduce the influence, right, of let's say politics in these particular, let's say, elections? Lot of times people who are unfit, people do not have expertise, get elected into the board of directors which manages the cooperative. So can you reduce that kind of influence? The infrastructure of cooperatives is already weaker. Skilled, right, labor is not there in the cooperatives. Right? Can you address that particular issue? Right? So these are some of the issues which will be holding back the success of the new cooperative policy 2025. In fact, right, there was one article couple of days ago in the Hindu newspaper itself. All of you heard of Samyukta Kisan Morcha, SKM. Right, very active by the way. Samyukta Kisan Morcha. It has criticized this cooperative policy. What is the criticism? Their argument is, how can the central government, that is a union government, bring in a cooperative policy? What about the state governments? What about the state governments? because cooperatives will also come under the regulation of the state governments. Right? Don't you think this kind of a policy announced unilaterally by the center is against the idea of federalism? Correct? Is it not the right the policy against the concept of federalism, which is right present in the Constitution of India? That is a concern they have raised, and they're simply saying lot of these policies will lead to corporatization. I repeat, lot of the policies which have been announced under 2025 policy, lot of these will lead to corporatization. Corporatization. And corporatization will always provide benefit to corporates, not to the farmers. Is it okay? Right? A lot of these will provide benefit to the corporates, not to the farmers. So is the government of India trying to basically bring in? Is it trying to basically bring in the three agriculture laws which they had withdrawn because of the opposition, but now in the form of a cooperative? Is it okay? Right? All of you are able to understand? I'm trying to give you the latest current affairs also. Please be very, very careful. Now, White Revolution 2.0. What are the important points regarding White Revolution 2.0? And please understand this. The White Revolution 2.0 has been announced very recently by the Ministry of Cooperation. The first White Revolution, that is simply White Revolution, that was announced back in 1970. That basically promoted the idea of a cooperatives where right we were able to pull in right the milk production done by different farmers or different let's say participants, and we were able to produce, sell, provide better returns to farmers, etc. That led to higher production of milk as well as the milk products in the domestic market. Now government of India has come out with the new policy, that is White Revolution 2.0. What are the important points? Please make a note of this. This, if at all it is asked, please mention these particular points. Have a look at this. Under this new policy, the government now says, I want to increase the production of milk. I want to increase the production of the milk. How much? I want to increase the production of milk by 50% in the next 5 years. And when I increase the milk production, I will start procuring more and more milk, will help in empowering the rural population. It will provide better returns to the population which is involved in the production as well as supply of milk. It will add to the income sources of this particular population. All of this is good outcome. All of this is very good outcome. So have a look at this. Right, we want to increase the milk production, and not just increase the production. I want to increase procurement of the milk as well. And for this particular purpose itself, under the White Revolution 2.0, government is aiming to basically empower 1 lakh dairy cooperatives. 1 lakh dairy cooperatives they want to empower. More than 50,000 they want to establish new cooperatives. For what purpose? Procurement. Procurement of the milk. And right, more than 40,000 they want to basically strengthen the infrastructure. These cooperatives are already present. They want to strengthen the infrastructure with these particular cooperatives. Or how? How will the right, let's say the procurement will be increased? How infrastructure will be strengthened? Look at the last point, you will understand. Look at the last point in the slide. The government of India has proposed each of these, right, that is cooperative societies which will be involved in the procurement, each of these will be provided with the financial assistance of 40,000 rupees. They'll be provided with a financial assistance using which the government is expecting they will right basically develop infrastructure, start procuring more and more food, more and more the milk that is produced, which is not going, which is not only going to provide benefit to the farmers, it is going to increase the milk production, milk supply, and the production of other derivatives of the milk in the domestic market as well. Everybody is okay, right? And finally, please have a look at the four focus areas. Focus on the right four focus areas here. Empowering women farmers. Second one is increase the milk production in the local market, strengthen the dairy infrastructure, and have a look at the last point as well. Right? This was also there in the multiple news articles. Indian, right, dairy companies now are entering into USA. Correct? Have you come across this article? Amul. It has entered into the USA dairy market now. We have started selling our products in the USA market. The milk production increases. Obviously, the derived products such as a cheese, such as milk powder, such as right, let's say the other products, butter, etc., right, or ghee for that matter, the production of that will also increase. So exports from the domestic market to the international market will also increase. So these are the four very important focus areas of White Revolution 2.0. Everybody is okay? Please do let me know now. Everybody is okay, right? So what we have covered, cooperative, right? What are the important points associated with cooperative? What is the latest policy of the government in the context of cooperative? And within that, White Revolution 2.0. Can I move forward to the next article? Next important concept now. Okay. Next important concept, multiple state governments now are amending their labor laws. The multiple state governments are amending their labor laws. For example, the state of Karnataka, the state of Andhra Pradesh. What is the proposal? Instead of keeping it at 48 hours, I hope all of you have come across this. Instead of keeping 48 hours per week, that is working hours, we will increase it to 72 hours per week. Yes or no? Have you come across this in the newspaper? Right? Officially, what is the number of working hours? 8 hours. 8 hours is the number of working hours. We will increase it. We will, with overtime, increase it to 12 hours. And when you increase with overtime to 12 hours per week, 12 into 6 will become 72 hours. Right? So 72 hours per week. I want to increase the number of working hours to this. This has actually led to a debate. And this has actually led to a debate. What is a debate? Is it good or is it bad? Right? Increasing the number of hours, is it good? If you ask Mr. Narayan Murthy, he'll simply say, very good. Correct? All of you are able to understand? If you go and ask Mr. Narayan Murthy, sir, the government is increasing the number of working hours to 72. Right? He'll simply say, why 72? Make it 90. Right? Make it 90, he'll simply say. You go and ask, right? Let's say Mr. Elon Musk, right? The government of the states in India are increasing it to 90. He will say not 90, make it 120. Right? Because right, my company employees are working 120 hours a week, so make it 120. It is always better, he'll say. The argument is right. Let's say two sets of argument. What is the objective we are trying to achieve with this? And at the same point of time, what are the negative outcomes of this? What are the problems with this kind of a policy? Let's understand. Let's do the critical evaluation. So, point number one, what are the objectives? What are the positive outcomes we are expecting? First one, more number of working hours means more production. I'll come to that also. Don't worry. Lot of these arguments will be like, if you increase the number of working hours, they will produce more. If they are going to produce more, right, the production increases, GDP also increases. We will be able to become a developed country much sooner. Correct? Everybody is okay with the first argument. Second argument, with this kind of a working schedule, listen to me very carefully. Lot of these companies prefer to have 12 hours, right? Let's say shift rather than 8-hour shift. I'll repeat, a lot of these companies will prefer to have 12-hour shift rather than 8-hour shift. Why? If they have to work throughout the day, that is, it's a manufacturing facility. If they want to ensure production happens throughout the day, they will have to have three shifts. Yes or no? They will have to have three shifts. That is 8, 8, 8. But instead of 8 hours with overtime, if I can make it 12, instead of three shifts, can I do it in two shifts now? Yes or no? Instead of three, can I do it in two shifts now? Of course, yes. So for companies, I repeat, for companies, rather than having three shifts, now they will be requiring only two shifts. Will this not help the company basically control the expenditures? Will this not help the company control the cost on the employees, etc.? Or the company simply say, I'm happy, right? It will work in my favor. I am okay with this. That is the second argument. Third argument, which was given by many of the states, which is a faulty argument, by the way. The states basically said, this is not the decision that we have taken. This is not the decision that we have taken. What we have done is basically we have followed the order of the center. Is my statement clear to all of you? What we have done is, right, we have simply followed the order of the central government. Right, for example, the Karnataka government clarified that there was a letter sent by the central government. Right, the central government simply said, right, the other states are also implementing. If other states are implementing, what is your problem? You also simply follow and implement this policy. So the state government of Karnataka said, not my problem. Center issued a directive. I followed the directive. And that is the third argument. Fourth argument, don't you think this will promote ease of doing business? Yes or no? You tell me. This will promote ease of doing business. Yes, it will also promote ease of doing business because companies do not have to be worried about multiple shifts now. Companies will not be worried about multiple employees. So obviously, it will promote ease of doing business in the system. So these are some of the positive aspects that we are expecting, positive outcomes that we are expecting from this kind of a policy shift in the labor laws. But at the same point of time, what are the concerns then? What are the issues? What are the concerns then? Point number one, listen to me carefully. If higher number of working hours are imposed on the labor, don't you think it will basically burden, increase the stress on the labor? Yes or no? It will increase the burden or the stress on the labor will be much higher. A very simple example, not related to labor. For example, you people only. Most of you will be already right rolling your eyes looking at the clock. Yes or no? Most of you will be looking at the clock wondering when he is going to finish. Since morning, I've been attending classes. Morning, I finished that class. Afternoon, I finished optional class. Now, I'm sitting for this class continuously. Right? It's been almost 3 hours. This fellow is not taking a break also. Right? I want a break. I don't want to miss anything. But this fellow is continuously taking. I hope you understand the amount of stress that will be, right? Basically, including these kind of jobs. Everybody is okay, right? So apply the same logic to workers. Instead of working 8 hours, now they are working for 12 hours. Don't you think there will be a lot of physical stress on them? Lot of mental stress also? And I hope you understand, when there is so much of stress, even a lapse of concentration can lead to a lot of accidents. Yes or no? Even a lapse of concentration, especially those people who are handling machines, you're asking them to work for 12 hours. Of course, they will give you a break in between, but even a lapse of concentration will lead to disastrous results for them. Accidents will be very, very high. Everybody is okay, right? Everybody is okay, right? So, one, burden or stress on the workers will be very high. Second one, now you tell me, if the company which wants to operate the machine for, right, let's say 24 hours, instead of running 3 shift, now they will require only 2 shift. Don't you think the number of workers required will be lesser? Yes or no? Please tell me now. Right? Instead of having 3 shift, you require only 2 shift now. Does it not mean you will not require the number of workers for 1 shift? So don't you think number of people who will be losing jobs will be higher because of this kind of policy? Yes, it will hurt the job prospects of many of the people. Third one, you're asking the workers to work additional hours. Right? You're asking them to work for additional hours. Are you going to compensate the same way to these workers? And I hope you understand. Instead of 8 hours, you'll ask them to work for 9 hours. Are you going to increase the compensation? And that is also a very gray area. Right? I hope you understand. Many of these, let's say the startup owners, you must have seen. Lot of times these startup entrepreneurs are criticized. Why? They will simply say, I'm working 80 hours a week. I expect my employees also to work 80 hours a week. It's a very ambitious number. I hope you understand. Very ambitious number. Why? You're an entrepreneur, you're owner of the company. Correct? You're owner of the company. And the workers that are working in your company, I hope you understand. That worker who is working in the company is getting peanuts in the form of salaries. You want them to spend 80 hours, 90 hours a week, contribute to your profitability so that you will earn more profit, so that your wealth will increase. What kind of logic is that? All of you are able to understand what kind of logic is that? You are the entrepreneur, you are owner of the company. Yes, your company performs well, your profits will increase, your wealth will increase, your salary will increase. What about other workers who are working 80 hours, 90 hours, 100 hours? They are going to home and still they are working for you. What about their work? What about their salary? What about their compensation, etc.? All of you are able to understand. The third one is right, the compensation part. The compensation part. And the fourth issue is, don't you think there is a required work life balance? Yes or no? There is a requirement of work life balance as well. You tell me, right? You people being, let's say, somebody who's preparing for the mains examination now, a lot of you would have already sacrificed your work life balance, and a lot of you will be almost at the breaking point now. Almost at the breaking point. That is basically, I don't know when I will explode, on whom I will explode, at what point of time I will fall into depression, etc. etc. Apply the same logic to workers. If they are basically working 12 hours a day, and imagine if they are working in right a city such as Bangalore, cities such as Gurugram, where right, let's say the traffic will be right taking 2 hours for them to reach home, reach office. 12 hours they have to be there in the office, and then they'll be stuck in 3 hours for traffic only. So 12 plus 3, 15 hours a day is gone. Out of 24 hours they are left with 9 hours. So within those 9 hours, when they should take the rest, when they should spend the time with the family, when they should spend time for themselves, that is recreation, entertainment, relaxation, etc. I hope you understand, the work life balance will get disturbed, and that will have a larger impact on the productivity of the worker. It will have a larger impact on the productivity of the worker. And finally, have a look at this. We are simply trying to correlate two things, and that correlation is not exactly correct. What is the correlation I'm talking about? Your argument is higher number of working hours is equal to higher production. It is not necessarily correct. I'll repeat the statement. Your argument is higher number of working hours is equal to higher production. Experts argue no, this is not necessarily true. It is not accurate. Why? There is something called as labor productivity. Please remember this particular term. There is something called as labor productivity. Labor productivity is more important. Meaning what? You tell me. I will give you a typewriter, ask you to type 10 pages. I will basically scan this, or I will basically give this to an artificial intelligence and ask the artificial intelligence to convert this into a Microsoft Word document. Where do you think productivity will be higher? All of you are able to understand? Where do you think productivity will be higher? Where technology is better, right? There the productivity will be higher. So argument is the labor productivity in India is very low. Just because you increase the number of working hours, production is not going to increase. Focus on labor productivity. That is, provide them skill set, provide them with better technology, provide them with the right working environment. Right? That automatically will increase the labor productivity per hour. They'll be producing more value of the goods compared to what they are doing now. So rather than simply increasing the number of working hours, right, try to increase the labor productivity. That will always be better in terms of maintaining the interest of the workers, as well as right, ensuring overall production in the economy will also increase. Is everybody okay with this particular debate? Those who are present in the session, do let me know. Is everybody okay with this particular debate? Can I move on to the next one now? Those who are present in the session, only two people are talking and chatting with each other. That is Gaurav and Prasant. Whatever chat you're having, my dear, right? I hope it is worth it. Right? I sincerely hope it is worth it. Because I can see continuously your right. One will send a code to another and the other person will reply. Right? You will ask a number, he will reply. He'll ask for some message, they will reply, and you will suddenly delete it. I sincerely hope whatever you're chatting, it is worth your time. Okay, let's go forward. Next topic, participation of women. Right, participation of women in the workforce. Ram Singh is asking, कब तक चलेगा class sir? कब तक चाहिए आपको आप बताओ. Till what time you want? And let me know. Don't worry. Couple of more topics I'll finish. Don't worry. So higher participation of women in the workforce. But again, I'm telling you this one more point. Please go to my Telegram channel after the session and download right the document. I'll give you a document. More than these topics I'm discussing, it will be there in that particular document. More topics are there in that document. Please download it. If somebody is writing mains examination this year, go through those topics. Lot of them are current affairs based. I know a lot of you are basically preparing for the state civil service examination also. Please go through that document. Reason being, I know subject of Indian economy, there are certain niche areas. Niche area, specific area. You generally find a difficulty in finding these particular topics in a book. I hope you understand. Right? You find it very difficult to get these topics in the book. Right? So what you need to do is get this information from survey documents, get the information from, right, let's say budget, get this information from PIB, and then accumulate all of it. That will give you a very, very good set of information. Okay. Higher participation of women in the workforce. What is the debate all about? Simple. What we are saying is, because of, right, let's say because of lesser participation of women in the market means in economic activity, right? In economic activity, contribution to GDP has been affected. And please understand, according to one survey, please have a look at this data. According to one survey, it says that by, right, have a look at this data. By 2047, we want to achieve a GDP of $30 trillion. That is the target by the government of India, by the way. By 2047, we want to become an economy of $30 trillion. To become an economy of $30 trillion, what we are expecting is contribution in economic activity to be done by male workers as well as the female workers. But because a lot of conditions, because of lot of issues, participation of female workers in the economic activity is lower. I'll tell you the reasons, don't worry. It is lower. And because the participation of female labor in the economic activity is lower, according to one survey, there will be a shortage of 255 million. I hope you understand this. There will be a shortage, there will be a shortage of 145 million women in the workforce by 2047. And if there's a shortage of 145 million women in the workforce, the paper simply says we will not be able to achieve a GDP of $30 trillion by 2040. The point clear? Do let me know. Is the point clear? It's very simple logic. We expect the women to participate along with the male workers, contribute to GDP, but because of various issues, the survey simply says we will have we will face a shortage. We will not be able to have so many workers, female workers in the economy. And because we will have a shortage of 145 million female workers in the economy, we will not be able to achieve the target of $30 trillion by 2040. Now you will ask me, sir, why? Why female workers will not be able to participate? Right? You will simply argue, मेरे घर में तो ऐसा नहीं है. You'll simply say, in my home, it is not so. We are promoting, right? We are very open minded, etc. My dear, there are multiple reasons. Multiple reasons. There are multiple reasons why female labor participation rate Right? For example, Manjit Singh is saying female LFPR is 30%. Yes, female labor force participation rate is very low in India. What are the reasons? What are the issues? The issues are very simple. One, the biggest problem associated with the participation of female labor is the care economy. All of you heard of care economy? In fact, a couple of years ago, there was a question asked in UPSC Mains examination on care economy. Right? They did not use the term care economy. They simply used the term monetized and non-monetized economy. What is the meaning of care economy? Household activities. Household activities. For example, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the children, taking care of the elderly, etc. Who does that in our households? And again, I'm not promoting this, by the way. Don't simply say, sir, because you're talking like this, I feel you're promoting it. No. Who takes care of elderly people in our households? Who takes care of, let's say, cooking activities, cleaning activities, etc.? Don't you think by default in most of the houses in India, it is done by women? Correct? At least today you don't lie. Don't lie to me, don't lie to yourself. Because right now, I know most of you are having dinner. Who brought the dinner to your table, kept it on your table, asked you to have dinner, brought a glass of water, kept it in front of you? Correct? It will be your mother. Correct? It will be your mother or your sister or your spouse, whoever it is. It is generally done by the female population of the household. So I hope you understand there is a lot of care economic activities. There is a lot of care economy activities, and most of the care economy activities are undertaken by women population. And if you ask me, sir, give me data so that I will be able to write a very effective answer in the mains examination, please have a look at this. 53%. This is again from one more report. 53% of India's women labor force is out of the labor force due to care responsibilities. For what? Care responsibilities. They are out of the economy because of the care responsibility. Right? Globally, over 708 million women are out of the labor force. Right? And that because of these kind of care economic activities, very small percentage of male population does it. Mostly it is done by women, in addition to many other issues. For example, in some of the cases, the survey simply says women are not interested. Right? Women are not interested. They are satisfied with the kind of education they have. They are not interested in getting, let's say, better quality education. That will also basically force them. Right? It will basically force them to stay back at home. Again, I'm not saying it is only the problem, right? Done because of, let's say, this. Multiple factors are there. I'll give you one more example. If, let's say, a women worker, a female worker, right, let's say, has a birth, gives a birth to a child. Don't you think if there is a creche facility, women worker will come back to the work? If there is a child care facility, at least provided in the community, if there's a child care facility provided, it is more likelihood that woman would again join back the work. But in case of India, there is a lack of all of this supporting infrastructure. I repeat, there is a lack of all of this supporting infrastructure. Right? Because of the care economic activities, because of lack of this kind of supporting infrastructure, because of the patriarchal mindset that has basically been set up in Indian households, because of societal pressure, these are some of the reasons why women prefer to stay outside the labor. Everybody is okay with this discussion? Please do let me know. Right? I've given many other points in this particular article. Please go through this particular article along with many other articles which are there in the right handout. And so these are some of the reasons why there is an argument that this will lead to lack of participation of women in the labor force, and this will hurt the prospects of economic growth in India. It will hurt the prospects of growth in the Indian economy. Done. So these are certain articles that I wanted to discuss, or the concepts that I wanted to discuss with you people in today's session. Everybody is okay? please do let me know. Anybody has any kind of a doubt or issue regarding whatever I've discussed, please do let me know right now. And before I start taking up your questions, I reiterate this. I reiterate this. After the session is over, please go to my Telegram channel, download the handout of this particular session. There are many other topics that I've covered. The notes I've given in that particular handout, download it. Please read it. Please read it. And do let me know once you download. Please do let me know after the video gets over. Right now, if you have liked this initiative, hit on the like button. But once you download the document, please do let me know in the feedback form as well. That is basically in the comment section of the video, whether the notes were helpful for you or not, whether these concepts were helpful for you or not. Because again, I'm simply saying these are right basically the concepts which are combination of dynamic as well as the static portion. Generally, you'll find it very difficult to get access to these kind of, let's say, consolidated topics, right? So this has been endeavor from our side to basically provide right these kind of let's say the concepts in detail, covering the static as well as the dynamic portion, at least to basically address requirements of UPSC examination. Done. So at the last, I would simply say all the best to all of you. Those are writing, those are writing exam this year. All the best to all of you. Right. A couple of more weeks are there. Almost 3 weeks. Do not fall prey to tension. Do not worry about anything else now. Please focus on your revision. Please focus on examination. At times, I know you will get frustrated. That's very common. I hope you understand. At times, you will get frustrated with the process. But think of the end result, not the one right now. Please think of the end result. What are you trying to achieve? For that, it requires persistence. Right? Focus on the persistence. Simply sit, start focusing, start reading, revising. Do not worry about anything else that is happening around you. Nothing is going to change in the next 3 weeks, even if you don't participate in the WhatsApp group. Nothing is going to change in the next 3 weeks, even if you do not reply to anybody in the Telegram channel. Live, forget about it, focus on your end goal. Done. So that's it from my side in today's session. In reiterating, if you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button and go to my Telegram channel. After some time, the document will be uploaded there. Please download the document, use it for your revision purposes. That's it. Take care. All the best. Have a great day.